Chapter 12-14. What is it? Tell me first. The power of the sword domain. Xiao took a deep look at the three of them and said, only by finding the power of the sword domain can it be possible to fight against the powerful god-destroying tower alone. The power of the sword domain, what is that? Lin Muyu was confused. Although she had stepped into the Mahayana heavenly Tao, she still knew very little about these things. Xiao smiled and said, the sword domain is a kind of supreme realm of the sword Tao, using the sword domain to fight against all things. However, the sword domain has not appeared in the world for thousands of years. Moreover, only a few divine weapons are qualified to pry into the sword domain. What do you mean specifically? You have to open the second form of the Xianyuan sword to be able to comprehend the power of the sword domain. Xiao said indifferently, however. I'm only a god of the universe, and I've never seen the true might of the sword domain. I've only heard my master mention it all those years ago, and I don't know how to activate the second form of the Xianyuan sword. Lin Muyu was speechless and said, in the end, isn't this the same as not saying anything? No, there is someone who may be able to help you. Who? The supreme being above the gold, heavenly Emperor Fuxi. Master. Master is in the gold? Where is the gold? Xiao smiled slightly. I can use the northern heavenly will to point out the location of the gold for you, but you must first recover from your injuries. Otherwise, if you meet people from the demon realm on the way, I am afraid it will not be good. A martial god with a broken arm may not be so powerful. Yes. In the Hall of Great Accomplishment, Lin Muyu rested and recuperated. The injuries of righteous gods recovered extremely quickly. Within a day, their bones began to regenerate and heal, and within 3 days, their broken wrists would almost be completely healed. As for Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, they went to the Western Divine Realm to look for Shi Yan and Eva. With Lin Muyu overseeing the Eastern Heaven Realm, she was enough to match 100 righteous gods, so there was no need to worry. When Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi arrived at the Temple of Light, they found that there was almost no one in the temple. On the other hand, Mara's army was flying everywhere on the spiritual mountain in the distance. They could see the light of the wings of the seraphim from afar. They were fighting the demon army there. It could be imagined that the primal chaos realm was adjacent to the Western Divine Realm, and the primal chaos realm was the exit of the devil realm to the outside world. Since the devil realm's great army was mobilized, the Western Divine Realm would naturally bear the brunt of the attack. Shao Shi, they have already started fighting. Have you seen Sister Xian? Qin Yin quickly pulled out the Donghua sword. Yes. Tang Xiaoxi also held out the Zhu Rong sacred fire sword and said, Shao Yin, let's go. It seems that Terralyn is there too. Great, I still have a gift for her. Qin Yin smiled slightly, and her figure had already turned into a lightning bolt and rushed over at full speed. Boom! The dazzling golden dragon crystal exploded in the air, and the power of order seemed to be able to tear everything apart. It easily crushed hundreds of Mara's bodies into pieces. Qin Yin's graceful body suddenly stopped in the air. Facing the countless attacking Mara's wings, she opened her arms, and the 4 wings behind her shone brightly. Countless dragon crystals flew into the sky. Boom, 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 blood rained down from the sky. The power of the graceful goddess was so strong that Mara's couldn't fight back at all. Even a few demon generals didn't dare to fight with Qin Yin at all. They quickly urged their mounts to fly away. Tang Xiaoxi landed on the spirited mountain with a bang. She stepped on the flames, and the flame-breaking fire spread out like a shock wave. Poison Spike Mara, who couldn't dodge in time, screamed and died in the sea of fire. In an instant, more than 200 were killed. Tang Xiaoxi's Zhu Rong sacred fire sword was even more powerful. The blade swept through the air, almost splitting the spirited mountain in half. Ah! Shi Yan and Eva were shocked. They turned around and looked. Shi Yan was so excited that she almost shouted, Xin, is that you? Qin Yin looked down at everyone and smiled, Sister Haiyan, Lady Eva. Terralyn, Lake, Teacher Li Fei, you're all here? Terralyn and Lake were also surprised. They hadn't seen each other for a long time. Qin Yin had actually become so strong. She was even much stronger than the two seraphim. This was really amazing. Another beautiful god of slaughter had already rushed to the sky with a flaming longsword. After a few slashes, the Mara's group dispersed. They couldn't compete with Tang Xiaoxi at all. There was even a demon general who was directly burned to death by Tang Xiaoxi's area of effect attack. Shi Yan chuckled, "Both of you are here?" "Yes." After Qin Yin confirmed that the Mara's army had retreated, she said, "The three of us ascended to the divine realm yesterday. You stayed in the Eastern Heaven realm. Xiao Shi and I came to take a look first and solve the urgent problem of the Western divine realm." Shi Yan nodded. Bai Feng Holy King has gathered nearly 3 million Mara's army to invade the Western divine realm. Every day, hundreds of thousands of Mara come to find trouble with us. Fortunately, you and Xiao Shi came. Otherwise, we might not be able to resist them anymore. I see. Qin Yin was a little worried, but didn't know how to comfort Shi Yan. She could only say, "I heard that you went to the demon realm. Sister Haiyan, are you okay?" "I'm fine, it's good that you're fine." The two sisters had reunited after a long time. What could be better than being safe with each other? Tang Xiaoxi descended from the sky and took out a spear from her space bag. She threw it directly to Terralyn and said, "Here, Terralyn, it's returned to its owner. This is for you." Dig spear? Terralyn was pleasantly surprised. Wasn't this given to Dora by the ruler? Yes, Dora has already been executed by us in the human world, so this spear is now given to you. I think you're the most suitable. Tang Xiaoxi giggled, "You're more compatible with this divine weapon's temperament." "Thank you, Xiao Shi." Terralyn was delighted and held the spear in her hand. Although the spear's original owner was Dora, it didn't hinder the spear's amazing lethality. At this moment, Qin Yin said, "By the way, Sister Haiyan, after the heavenly punishment, everyone lost their divine power. How did you maintain your divine power?" "Eva and I entered the demon realm, so we avoided the heavenly punishment and were able to preserve the power of our divinities. As for the others, I used the light primordial stone to reawaken their divine power, so we're not the true gods of the Mahayana heavenly path. We're just some old gods that aren't recognized by heaven and earth. But, old gods are old gods. There's no need to stick to these things." Qin Yin's beautiful eyes swept across everyone, and she said softly, "It seems that everyone's strength hasn't returned to its original level. Yes, the light primordial stone can only awaken divine power, but it can't completely restore it. Moreover, the light primordial stone is limited, and we've used it all up, but it's still useless." Shi Yan pointed to the ground. There were still many bloodstained or injured cultivators standing there, numbering in the thousands. Shi Yan said, "Look, Xin, they're all depraved gods that came from various planes to help me protect the radiant Saint Hall. However, the light primordial stone is too rare, and they can't awaken their power. Many of them have died under Mara's claws." Qin Yin bit her red lips and looked at the ground. Apart from the many injured people, there were also many corpses. Apart from that, there were also the wreckage of some huge machines that seemed to be torn apart steel warships. Qin Yin was experienced and knowledgeable. Although she didn't know what they were, she could guess that they were the products of some advanced plane. Although they were strong, they weren't strong enough to fight against Mara's army. It seems that the Western Divine Realm's top priority is the light primordial stone. Qin Yin smiled. Yes. Shi Yan nodded. One light primordial stone can create an old god, but most of the light primordial stones in the divine realm were taken away by Claude when he left. So, we can only do this. Do you know where Claude escaped to? I don't know. Shi Yan bit her red lips and said, "Why, Xin, do you want to find Claude and ask him for the light primordial stone?" Yes, it's a waste to leave it in the hands of someone like him. How many light primordial stones does Claude have? I'm not too sure, but he should have at least 100. If the Western Divine Realm has 100 battle angels, I'm afraid they won't be so passive. Yes. Qin Yin smiled. Sister, I'll leave Xiaoxi to guard the Radiant Saint Hall with you. I'll help you find Claude and retrieve the light primordial stones that originally belonged to the Western Divine Realm. Can you really find him? I can try. Yes. If you can find Claude, Sheen, then the Western Divine Realm will owe you a new lease on life. Late at night, the Radiant Saint Hall was silent. Qin Yin stood on the arm of the damaged statue outside the Radiant Saint Hall and gazed into the universe. The power of order swept into the universe like a powerful wave. She needed to use the power of order of the graceful goddess to find Claude's whereabouts. Ever since the day she became the graceful goddess, Qin Yin became more familiar with the order of the six realms. This was also the reason why she recommended herself to Shi Yan. Just like that, Qin Yin stood motionless like a statue of a goddess for several hours. Tang Xiaoxi sat at the side and enjoyed the night view of the Western Divine Realm. After an unknown amount of time, Qin Yin's body suddenly trembled and she opened her beautiful eyes. Found him? Tang Xiaoxi asked. Yes, I found him. I'll go there. Xiaoxi, you stay here and help Sister Xian. Okay. Before she finished her sentence, Qin Yin had already disappeared from where she was. Her body had entered a fast-moving spatial trajectory, and even Tang Xiaoxi could not see her anymore. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Muyu's wrist injury had healed. It was time to meet Fuxi in the Golden Palace. After Xiao's North Tianluan gave him the coordinates, Lin Muyu rushed into the sky. He didn't have much time left. He had to find Fuxi as soon as possible and return to the Eastern Heaven Realm. After all, Mara's army could be involved at any time. Chapter 12-15. Jean. Roar, lightning flashed as the Dark Servant launched its attack against Jean for the umpteenth time. Lightning rained down from the sky, and raging flames raged against the sword formation. Amidst the rumbling sounds, the bottom of Jean seemed to be hit by the flames, and the whole thing shook. Fan Yang roared, the veins on his arms bulging, and his god force nearly doubled. This was Fan Yang's cultivation ability, the ability to stimulate his greatest potential. Finally, Shi Ming's attack retreated a little under the dense sword chi attack, but he still howled and opened his huge mouth, looking like he was going to swallow Jean in one breath. Fuxi stood in the center of the sword array with a sage-like appearance and said with a frown, "This demonic beast is getting stronger and more arrogant. It looks like the demonic aura has completely entered the six realms." Miyu frowned slightly. "Master, what should we do?" "Continue to strengthen the sword array. Shi Ming won't be able to hold on for much longer. After he uses up all his demonic energy this time, he will naturally leave." "Yes." Right at this moment, blood-red lightning flashed in the sky, and the thunder roared even more violently. A figure appeared in the sky, and the long sword in his hand glowed with a golden light as he slashed at Shi Ming. Boom! Shi Ming howled in pain. His chin was almost split in half, and blood gushed out. He retreated into the demonic cloud and suddenly spat out several flames. The figure in the sky blocked all the attacks with his sword, dealing with them with ease and ease. "Who is that?" Fan Yang asked in surprise. Miyue's beautiful eyes also widened. "Yes, who is he?" "His Mahayana heavenly god's power is so strong." Fuxi smiled slightly. This kid actually took the initiative to find us." "It's little junior brother." Meiyu's eyebrows immediately lit up. "He really is handsome." At this time, Lin Meiyu put away his sword and landed on Jean. He had seen Fuxi before, so he immediately walked forward respectfully, knelt on one knee, and cupped his fists. "Disciple greets master." "You, get up. There's no need to be so reserved." Fuxi smiled lightly. Lin Meiyu stood up and said, "Master, is Jean doing well here? I saw, that evil beast just now was very strong. Its strength was not inferior to the god-destroying pagoda at all. That's only natural. This divine beast, Shi Ming, once devoured the entire demon world, and the demon world was in its stomach. But now, Shi Ming has fallen and become a demon. After absorbing so much of the demon world's power, it's naturally extremely powerful. Lin Muyu grinned. I understand. Miyu quickly walked over and held on to Lin Muyu's shoulder as she asked with a smile, do you know who I am? Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. Fuxi chuckled. I have a total of 4 disciples under me. You is ranked 5th. Let's get to know each other. Miyu said with a smile, little junior brother, I am your second senior sister, Miyu. Greetings, senior sister Miyu. Fan Yang walked forward with a smile. Little junior brother, I am the eldest disciple of the sect, Fan Yang. Greetings, eldest senior brother Fan Yang. Here, these two are 3rd senior sister Wan Xing and 4th senior brother Hao Chen. Greetings, senior sister Wan Xing, senior brother Hao Chen. Lin Muyu said with a smile, I didn't expect that I would have so many fellow disciples. Miyu chuckled. How is it? Do you feel like you've returned home? Yes. Fuxi stroked his beard and said, Fan Yang, Miyu, you've all seen it. Yu's cultivation is even higher than yours. This little junior brother's aptitude is unprecedented. You should exchange pointers and learn from each other in the future. Yes, master. Fuxi continued, you don't come without a reason. You must have a reason for coming here, right? The God world is in such turmoil. You can't possibly come here for no reason. Master is wise. Lin Muyu said respectfully, I'm here to find a power to fight against the gods destroying tower. Fairy Xiao told me that there's a power called Sword Domain that can fight against the gods destroying tower. However, I must activate the 2nd form of the Xianyuan sword. Master, please teach me how to comprehend the power of this sword domain? The sword domain. Fuxi pondered deeply for a moment, and then he said with a smile, very few people know of the sword domain since ancient times, and even fewer have comprehended it. Do you really want to seek it? The gods destroying tower is too powerful. I don't want the righteous gods to be killed one by one. Yes, as a martial war god, you have such a compassionate heart. This is the fortune of the righteous path. However, the sword domain is filled with danger. Even if you are a Mahayana heavenly Tao's righteous god, you might not return. Are you sure you want to go? Yes, the gods destroying tower is getting stronger day by day. I must also become stronger. Lin Muyu said resolutely, even if I die, I will not regret it. Good. You are indeed my disciple. Fuxi said proudly, the secret of the sword domain is hidden in the eternal sword domain. I must tell you what kind of place the eternal sword domain is. The eternal sword domain is a cage, a place of exile. Since ancient times, countless demon gods have been sent into the eternal sword domain by the laws of heaven and earth. No one who entered the eternal sword domain came back alive. Do you still insist on going? Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, if I go back on my words and say that I don't want to go, my senior brothers and sisters will definitely laugh at me. So, I still want to go. Sigh, Fuxi sighed and said, you are my proudest disciple. I really don't want to see you walk into a dead end. If Master really doesn't want me to die on the way to the eternal sword domain, why don't you tell me what's there? What's my biggest enemy? I don't know, Master. I've never been there. Fuxi floated in the air, looking like an immortal. He looked at Lin Muyu and said, but since you've made up your mind, don't worry and go. From the moment you decided to search for the eternal sword domain, your fate was already decided. Go, you. I'll be waiting for you in Jin. But, once I go to the eternal sword domain, then, what about the Eastern Divine Realm? If Mara's army attacks the Eastern Divine Realm again, I'm afraid no one will be able to stop them. Don't worry. If we really can't stop them, Master will personally help Xiao out. Thank you, Master. Lin Muyu was a little confused again. She asked, but Master, how do I go to the Eternal Sword Domain? The Eternal Sword Domain doesn't belong to any plane. It exists with a single thought. The ancient gods called it the realm of extreme evil. You must be ready. Only then can I open the door to the eternal sword domain for you. Master, I'm ready. Lin Muyu unsheathed the Xianyuan sword. Blood-colored lightning crackled around her. She had already transformed into her battle form as a martial god. Her aura was so imposing that Miyue, Fan Yang, and the others were forced to take several steps back. In terms of cultivation, Lin Muyu was indeed a level higher than the other 4 disciples. Little junior brother, you must be careful. Miyue said softly. Don't worry, senior sister Miyue. Lin Muyu had already realized that Miyue loved her little junior brother the most. At this time, a black aura slowly rose from Fushi's palm. He closed his eyes and suddenly waved his arm. Suddenly, a pitch-black path appeared at the edge of the golden world. This path led to an imperceptible black hole. That black hole was the entrance to the eternal sword domain, and also the place where Lin Muyu was about to go. Miserable screams and angry roars came from within the black hole. It was as if countless vengeful spirits were waiting inside. At this moment, Lin Muyu suddenly felt that she couldn't catch a tiger cub without entering the tiger's den. However, this tiger's den was probably 10,000 times more dangerous than any tiger's den in the world. Go, you. We will wait here for your return, Fushi said. Thank you, master. Please take care. Lin Muyu carried her long sword and floated into the black hole. Suddenly, the temperature around her suddenly dropped. It was even colder than the den of gods and demons in the 64 domains. It was really an inexplicable temperature. Lin Muyu's eyes widened. There was still a long path inside the black hole, and hideous faces appeared in the darkness around her. They were roaring and wailing. There were men and women, but they were extremely terrifying. They were not human at all, and they kept screaming at Lin Muyu, "Young man, save me, take me away from here. I am willing to be loyal to you forever, save me, I don't want to rot like this, save me, take me away, I don't want to die, I can't accept this." Rotting arms reached out one after another, but they were blocked by Lin Muyu's protective aura. Lin Muyu couldn't even tell if these people were real or just an illusion. However, at this moment, he felt like he was in purgatory. This place was much more terrifying than the ghost realm. Lin Muyu stepped on the void and sped up to leave this path filled with resentment. In front of him, there seemed to be a faint light. Was that the exit? When he was about to get close, Lin Muyu clearly saw that it was not an exit, but the eyes of a huge python. It had already opened its mouth and was about to swallow its prey. You're courting death. Lin Muyu flipped her sword and swept out with the power of the sacred martial. Her entire body was like a spinning top as she rushed into the python's stomach with countless sword chi. When Lin Muyu flew over, the python was also killed by her. What the hell is this? In the darkness, a strong gust of wind suddenly blew past, and Lin Muyu was already in another world. In the darkness, he had actually completed passing through the eternal sword domain. Squinting his eyes, Lin Muyu carefully looked around and found that he was in a messy wilderness. Now that he was floating in mid-air, there was a chain of mountains below him, but there were only mountains and no trees. There were only some long-dead tree roots. Death chi, a thick death chi filled his nose. Many people must have died here, and not a single one of them was not an expert who had once made a name for himself. However, there was no tombstone in the thick aura of death. This meant that the dead had not been buried. Rustle, rustle, after landing, cracking sounds came from under Lin Muyu's feet. Looking closely, he found that it was a leg bone that belonged to a human. He couldn't help but frown. How unlucky. At this moment, a cold wind suddenly came from behind him. It was the sound of weapons tearing through the air. Without any explanation, the person had used a killing move. How fast was Lin Muyu's reaction? He dodged and swung the Xianyuan sword back. Good, let's fight. Chapter 12:16. Swoosh. The blunt weapon missed its target and landed heavily on the ground, causing the soil to crumble. The attacker was a black-faced man with a ferocious expression. He was not holding a sword in his hand, but a rotting and rusty iron rod. It was not an exaggeration to call it a blunt weapon. His speed was too slow, at least in Lin Muyu's eyes, it was ridiculously slow. Clang! The Xianyuan sword swept across and cut the iron rod in half. Lin Muyu took the opportunity to advance and kicked the man's abdomen with her battle boots. The black-faced man groaned and fell to the ground, spitting blood. Before he could even raise his head, the sharp blade of the Xianyuan sword was already at his neck. Lin Muyu said indifferently, "Speak. Why did you attack me without saying a word?" The black-faced man looked at her angrily but did not speak. His Adam's apple bobbed up and down a few times as he stammered something incomprehensible. "What do you mean?" Lin Muyu was surprised. However, the black-faced man grabbed the blade of the Xianyuan sword. Blood seeped out of his palms, and he pressed his throat against the blade. With a poochie sound, the sword had already pierced through his throat, and he lay there twitching. Lin Muyu was perplexed. She flicked the blood off the blade of her sword. The man had not said a word, and it was obvious that he wanted to speak, but he did not. Could he be mute? Without thinking too much, Lin Muyu squatted down and searched the black-faced man's body. Apart from an iron rod and ragged clothes, he had nothing on him. His body was thin and it was obvious that he had been malnourished for a long time. Lin Muyu could see that the man's stomach was empty. He had been starving for a long time. How could this be? He was very surprised. According to his master, wasn't the Eternal Sword Domain a place where experts gathered? The man in front of him seemed to be at most a hierarch, but he had almost starved to death. He would have starved to death if he had not sent him off. Forget it, Lin Muyu sheathed the Xianyuan sword and continued walking forward. Her goal was not to kill people in the Eternal Sword Domain, but to find the strongest power in the Eternal Sword Domain. The two sides of the mountain range were uneven, and the Eternal Sword Domain was filled with a deathly aura. There was barely any greenery. Along the way, Lin Muyu would occasionally see a few trees with leaves that had been gnawed clean. Perhaps it was an animal that had eaten the leaves, or perhaps it was a human or a god. Although gods could go without food for a long time, it did not mean that they could go without food for thousands of years. Generally speaking, a god's physical strength would be affected if they did not eat for half a year. Rustle, stepping on the fallen leaves, Lin Muyu was thinking about the secrets of the Eternal Sword Domain. Suddenly, a few auras rippled in the distance. They were filled with murderous intent. Looking into the distance, the hills on both sides of the valley were silent. However, Lin Muyu knew that there were a few people lying in ambush in the dead shrubs. Moreover, their target was her. These people's cultivation levels were not low. Lin Muyu could not see through one of them. The Eternal Sword Domain was indeed an ominous place. Whoosh! Before she could get within 100 meters, an arrow was suddenly shot at her at an incredible speed. Lin Muyu's speed was even faster, a blood-colored holy martial power appeared on both of his arms, and he swept his fist horizontally to knock the arrow away. At the same time, a few other arrows also flew over. The strength of the arrows was very strong, to the point that Lin Muyu's fist was slightly numb. These people's arm strength and archery skills were all above Wei Chao's. Hong! Lin Muyu turned into a bolt of lightning and flew to the top of the mountain. Looking down, she saw a few people dressed in black put down their bows and pulled out their swords. They looked at her with hostility. Their swords glowed with a cold light. Clearly, they were much better equipped than the previous person. All of them were gritting their teeth. "Who are you people?" Lin Muyu asked. "The people who will kill you," one of them said with a sinister voice. His sword turned into a ray of light and flew over. In an instant, the 7 people in the bushes attacked at the same time. They came from different angles, but their intentions were the same. Lin Muyu used the falling star steps. Her figure suddenly flipped in the air. Sword chi slashed at 2 people and she kicked one of them. At the same time, a cold wind attacked her from behind. She quickly turned around and blocked it with her sword. Pung! Golden light shot out in all directions. The shock numbed her arms, and she retreated a little. The attacker was the one with the strongest aura. He forced Lin Muyu back a few steps. He was not in good shape either. Blood even flowed from the corner of his mouth. Kill him. Don't let him go. Several people shouted. Lin Muyu was also determined to kill. Her Xianyuan sword turned into a bolt of lightning and swept across two of her opponents. At the same time, she punched out with her iron fist and pierced through the fifth person's abdomen. She kicked the sixth person and sent him crashing into the field, screaming incessantly. In just a moment, 5 of the 7 were killed, 1 was severely injured, and the other was injured. Who are you? Among the 7 people, the voice of the strongest person was trembling. Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and said, "It doesn't matter who I am. What matters is who you are." He had almost given up resisting. Lin Muyu was ruthless. If he resisted, he would probably die. After a few seconds, he said, "My name is Zhang Wei. I am a member of the Hunter League." Hunter League? Yes. Lin Muyu walked forward and took the long sword from Zhang Wei's hand. She asked calmly, "What is the Hunter League? Can you tell me?" The Hunter League is just an alliance, but it is very powerful. It covers almost the entire Eternal Sword domain. Who are you? Zhang Wei's eyes flashed with fear and panic. Don't worry. If you don't want to kill me, I won't kill you. Lin Muyu's eyes were calm. She said, "Now, tell me. What is the Eternal Sword domain? Who are the people? What are the forces? Tell me in as much detail as you can." Zhang Wei frowned. You don't even know these things. Are you from another world? Zhang Wei's face was full of shock. Impossible. Impossible. The door to the Eternal Sword domain has been closed for thousands of years. It's impossible for someone from another world to come here. Lin Muyu said coldly, "You haven't answered a single one of my questions." Oh, this. Zhang Wei sorted out his thoughts and said, "I don't know where to start. The Eternal Sword domain has existed for tens of thousands of years. It is a world where gods, demons, and humans coexist. The resources here are extremely scarce, and there are less than 4 hours of sunlight every day. As a result, most of the plants have died. The gods who were exiled to the Eternal Sword domain fought and killed each other. In the end, most of them hid themselves. A few of the strongest ones built cities and raised the humans. They continued to grow plants that required less sunlight for food." Wait a minute. Lin Muyu said, "I heard Master say that the gods who were exiled to the Eternal Sword domain are all gods. Where did the humans come from?" Zhang Wei smiled. Gods and their descendants are considered humans without any cultivation. They are all mortals. The sinful gods who were left behind in the Eternal Sword domain don't care about the lives of their descendants. After they give birth to them, they abandon them like a pair of worn-out shoes. That's how the humans came to be. What about you? How did you come to this world? Zhang Wei frowned and said, "I was one of the last gods to be exiled to the Eternal Sword domain. In my hometown, I had a woman I loved. Later on, her father did not agree to our marriage. Instead, he betrothed her to another person with great power. She agreed, so I slaughtered her entire clan in a fit of rage. That's why I was exiled." Oh, right. Her father was the divine king there. Lin Muyu grinned. You really do all sorts of evil. Zhang Wei said, "I've been exiled for so many years. I've always regretted what I've done. However, there's no turning back. I can only struggle on in the Eternal Sword domain. Alright, let's talk about the Hunters' Alliance. What's the deal with this alliance?" Zhang Wei pointed at a blood-red emblem on his shoulder and said, "Do you see this? Food is extremely scarce in the Eternal Sword domain. That's why everyone kills each other and treats their enemies as food. The Hunters Alliance is a hunting alliance. We don't attack each other. On the contrary, we work together like a pack of wolves to attack powerful targets and hunt them down. It's just that, Zhang Wei looked at the pile of corpses around him and smiled bitterly. It's just that we failed this time. We've waited here for a day and a night for you. I didn't expect you to be so strong. Lin Muyu said, in that case, I met a person who was holding a blunt weapon. Even when he chose to commit suicide, he didn't manage to say a complete sentence. What's going on? In that case, he must be a loner. Zhang Wei said calmly, people who live alone in the wilderness of the eternal sword domain. These people eat anything. Animal corpses, grass roots in the soil, insects in the river. Loners are also one of our hunting targets. Moreover, they're used to living alone. It's possible that they haven't spoken for 10,000 years. If you live alone and don't speak for 10,000 years, you'll also lose the ability to speak. Lin Muyu, Zhang Wei frowned and looked straight at him. I've told you everything I know. Can you tell me who you are now? You should be someone from another world. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to kill 5 hunters so easily. Even the lords of those cities might not have the ability to do so. Who are you? That's right. I am indeed someone from another world. I'm a god. I've come to the eternal sword domain with only one goal, and that is to search for the power of the sword domain. Do you know about the sword domain? The power of the sword domain, Zhang Wei frowned and said, I'm not afraid that you'll be disappointed. I've been in the eternal sword domain for thousands of years, but I've never heard of it. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. Instead, she reached out and removed the hunter's emblem from Zhang Wei's arm. She crushed it and said, from now on, you'll follow me. I need a guide here. Perhaps I can take you out of the eternal sword domain in the future. You can take me out? Who are you? Lin Muyu turned around and smiled brilliantly. My name is Lin Muyu. I'm a righteous god of the 6 realms outside the eternal sword domain. I'm a titled martial god, and I wield the strongest sacred martial heavenly Dao. Do you have any more questions? Zhang Wei. Chapter 12-17. Wait, there's still one alive. Just as Lin Muyu was about to leave, Zhang Wei turned around and stepped into the bushes. With a swing of his long sword, he beheaded the heavily injured hunter, and the head rolled far away. Then, Zhang Wei searched his body and found a small bag. He took it off, then took the other hunter's bag and said, Lord War God, we can go now. What's that? Lin Muyu asked in surprise. Food bags. Zhang Wei said, every hunter who goes out to hunt will bring at least 3 days' worth of rations. These bags are enough for us to survive in the wilderness for half a month. Lin Muyu was a little speechless. I don't need it. I don't lack food. He patted the cosmos sack at his waist and said, I brought enough food for a year. You can keep it for yourself. Yes, Lord War God. Zhang Wei was a little shocked. Then, he looked at the sky and said, it's going to be dusk soon. Lord War God, let's find a cave to hide in first. Hide? Hide from what? Those demons hiding in the darkness. The guard said in a low voice, you might not know this, but I've said it before. There are gods, demons, and humans in the eternal sword domain. Whenever night falls, humans hide in their houses and caves, trembling in fear. Even gods don't dare to appear outside. Those demons will be accompanied by gales of wind and sand, devouring everything that can be eaten. Lin Muyu frowned. What are those demons? They came with the wind and can hide in the yellow sand. Even I can't fight against 2 demons working together. Besides, once they appear, they will be in groups. We don't have much time left. We must hide within an hour, or we will become 2 sets of bones tomorrow. That's scary? Alright, let's find a place to hide. Alright. As a squad leader of the Hunters Union, Zhang Wei was very familiar with the terrain, so he quickly found a very hidden cave. He cut off a huge rock with his sword and used it to cover the entrance of the cave. After that, he lived in the cave, roasting his food and eating it. Lin Muyu watched from the side, only to find that Zhang Wei broke a piece of bread into 2 pieces, only roasted 1 piece, and put the other half into the food bag, looking quite thrifty. It seemed that the gods of the eternal sword domain really did have it tough. Lin Muyu fumbled around and found some deer leg meat in her Qingquan bag. She gave it to him and said, "Roast this. It tastes better and there's oil." "Ah. Meat." Zhang Wei was stunned. "What? I haven't eaten meat in a long time. Aren't you a member of the Hunters' Union? Logically speaking, after you kill your prey, you should eat their flesh." "No." Zhang Wei shook his head and said, "In the eternal sword domain, I can only be considered a newcomer. Moreover, I was exiled because I was filled with disappointment and hatred. I kill because those who betrayed me deserve to be killed, not because I'm really that evil. Although I've joined the Hunters' Union, every time I go out, I only want dry rations. I don't want human flesh, so, the food I'm given is very little. Looks like you're not completely rotten." Lin Muyu glanced at him and said, "Roast it and eat it. This is venison, not human flesh." "Many thanks, my lord." Just as Zhang Wei was roasting the venison and smelling the fragrant aroma, a gale began to blow outside. Lin Muyu couldn't help but stand up and walk to the entrance of the cave. She squinted her eyes and looked outside, only to see that the sky had turned dark. A biting cold storm swept past, bringing with it yellow sand. It was as if the end of the world had come. No wonder the trees outside did not grow tall. The wind was so strong that it could even roll stones, and the trees had long since been uprooted. Hiss, hiss, in the darkness, figures appeared one after another. They were monsters walking on 4 feet. Their eyes were dark, and there were 2 jaws in front of their heads that were like knives. They were probably used to hunt and kill prey. Moreover, each of these monsters let out a chilling hiss. They walked in the wind as if they were walking on flat ground, searching for prey. Zhang Wei pulled out a small knife and began to cut the venison. As he ate, he said, "Lord War God, what do you see?" "Some big bugs running around on the ground." "Oh, those are the legendary crypt demons. They can hide in the yellow sand and the wind, killing people without leaving a trace. Many gods have died in their hands and become their food. I advise you not to try to fight the crypt demons. Once surrounded by the crypt demons, even a god will find it hard to escape death." "Yes, I know." Lin Muyu could sense how powerful these crypt demons were. Naturally, she would not try to fight them easily. Moreover, each of these crypt demons had the battle prowess of 100 Mara. If this was the army that the Devil Realm had sent out, it would be a disaster for the 6 realms. After watching for a while, Lin Muyu walked back and sat down. She said, "Zhang Wei, have you heard of a story about the Sword Realm?" "I have." Zhang Wei wiped his mouth and said, "The City of Dawn." "The City of Dawn?" "Yes, Lord. I heard that 100,000 years ago, there was no City of Dawn. The 10 strongest experts of the Eternal Sword Domain fought there. In the end, 9 of them died, and only 1 survived. His name was Meng Taifeng. He built the City of Dawn single-handedly. It is said that, the strongest power in the Eternal Sword Domain is in Meng Taifeng's hands. Perhaps, the power of the Sword Realm that Lord War God is looking for is in the City of Dawn. Alright, where is the City of Dawn? Take me there." This, Zhang Wei hesitated, then said, "Hunters do not have the right to enter the City of Dawn. The gods in the City of Dawn have already pledged their loyalty to the City Lord, Meng Taifeng. Even if we go to the City of Dawn, we will not be able to enter. Moreover, you have killed 6 hunters. The Hunters' Alliance will soon follow us. What we need to consider is not how to get to the City of Dawn, but how to survive. Is the Hunters' Alliance that powerful?" "Yes, there are millions of members in the Hunters' Alliance. They have eyes and ears everywhere in the Eternal Sword Domain. Moreover, the Hunters' Alliance has a rule of iron and blood. They will definitely find us. Lord, do you know what the conditions to join the Hunters' Alliance are? What? 2 people must form a partnership and apply to join the alliance. After that, they must fight and kill each other. The one who survives will be able to join the alliance. Lin Muyu frowned. Who came up with such a perverted rule? The leader of the alliance, Luo Xingji. Sounds like an expert. Yes. If the city of Dawn's Meng Taifeng is the king of the eternal sword domain, then Luo Xingji is the other king who can rival Meng Taifeng. No matter what, I must go to the city of Dawn tomorrow. All right. Zhang Wei felt a little helpless. Lord, if you are not afraid of death, I will accompany you. All right. Suddenly, a creaking sound came from the entrance of the cave. It seemed like the stone blocking the entrance was beginning to loosen. What's going on? Lin Muyu asked. Zhang Wei hurriedly extinguished the flames. This is bad. The smell of roasted meat might have attracted the crypt demon. I was too careless. Don't make a sound, don't make a sound. Lin Muyu had already unsheathed the Xianyuan sword. The sword glowed faintly in the darkness. The creaking sound became even more intense. It seemed like something was cutting the stone. Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and the stone exploded. A giant beast hidden in the yellow sand pounced towards them. It was the crypt demon that Zhang Wei had mentioned. Roar! Its mouth was wide open, and its jaws were also open. It was ready to bite its prey at any time. But this time, its prey was clearly not simple. The power of the Saint Martial appeared around Lin Muyu's arms. Her sword flashed like lightning, and the crypt demon immediately retreated. Its head split open in the middle, and green blood splattered everywhere. My God! Zhang Wei turned pale with fright. On one hand, he was shocked by Lin Muyu's strength. She had killed a crypt demon with a single strike. This was too shocking. On the other hand, it had alarmed the crypt demons. More crypt demons would soon arrive. As expected, the roars in the distance became louder and more frequent. In the darkness, pairs of eyes with a gloomy luster stared at the 2 people in the cave. Is this cave connected to the other end? Lin Muyu asked. Zhang Wei shook his head. No, it's over, it's over. We're going to die here tonight. Why are you so unambitious? Lin Muyu said. We can't just sit here and wait for death. Let's fight our way out. I'll lead the way, and you'll cover the rear. Don't worry, my Saint Martial power will greatly increase your strength. Tell me where we can take refuge. Nearby, there's only a small city nearby that can take refuge. Aleut City is to the north, about 20 kilometers from here. That far? Forget it, where's the north? Straight ahead. Go! Lin Muyu shouted. The power of the Saint Martial power turned into a ray of light and seeped into Zhang Wei's body, greatly stimulating his potential. For a moment, Zhang Wei was pleasantly surprised. This. What kind of power is this? Lord Martial God, I feel. I'm almost invincible. No, you're still far from being invincible. Go. Yes. The Xianyuan sword shone brightly, and Lin Muyu raised her sword and unleashed a furious sky-splitting slash. 100-meter-long sword chi slashed out, clearing a path in front of them. The crypt demons actually revealed expressions of fear, and they stopped moving forward as they watched their companions being killed. Zhang Wei was stunned for a moment. He had lived in the eternal sword domain for thousands of years, but he had never seen the crypt fiends show such fear. But this fear only lasted for less than half a minute. Under the roar of a certain evil beast, the group of crypt fiends chased after them. This was their normal behavior. Lin Muyu rushed in front, waving her sword. Sword chi shot out like cannonballs, while reincarnation power floated in her left hand, constantly killing the crypt fiends blocking the way. For a moment, the 2 of them continued to move forward, and the corpses of the crypt fiends behind them had already piled up. Chapter 12:18. Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei could only advance along the ground with great difficulty. Along the way, there were corpses of crypt fiends and crypt fiends everywhere. These crypt fiends were unlucky. In the past, they only encountered some ordinary experts, and 2 or 3 crypt fiends could kill one. But today, they encountered Lin Muyu, the god of death. The sharp jaws of the crypt fiends couldn't stop the divine weapon in his hand at all. They were cut off with a single slash, unable to resist at all. But there were too many crypt fiends, and Zhang Wei soon began to be unable to stop them. Whoosh! The blade spun through the air and helped Zhang Wei clear the crypt fiends that were surrounding him. The Xianyuan sword spun back as if it had a mind of its own and returned to Lin Muyu's hand. Zhang Wei exclaimed in admiration, "Lord Martial God's swordsmanship is truly unprecedented." Lin Muyu frowned, "Hurry up and keep up, don't get eaten." Yes. The two ran all the way, and soon, a small city appeared in front of them. It was really small, even like a small village. However, the walls were quite high, at least 10 meters, enough to stop the crypt fiends from jumping. Hiss! Hiss! When Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei arrived at the city, the crypt fiends behind them quickly gathered into a group and let out sharp roars. The dense crowd was very frightening. "Open the door," Zhang Wei said loudly. "Did the people on the city hear you? Open the door and let us in." Unexpectedly, a head popped out from the stone wall and shone a lantern outside. "Who are you? Do you not want to live anymore in the middle of the night?" and actually ran outside. Zhang Wei said, "We are from the Hunters' Alliance. Please let us in. We will repay you generously for saving our lives." The man coughed and said, "Aliot is only a small city, it can't stop the fiend's attack. You should leave, there is a big city about 100 miles east." With that said, the watchtower above closed with a bang. Obviously, the people in the city didn't want to let them in at all. But Lin Muyu heard noises coming from inside the city. It seemed that someone was arguing, and the topic of the argument was whether to let the 2 people outside the city in. "Lord Martial God, what should we do?" Zhang Wei's face was pale as he turned to face the countless fiends. The sword in Lin Muyu's hand glowed faintly as she said, "You hide behind me. Since they won't let us in, we'll use the city walls as cover and fight the demons with our backs to the city walls. This is much safer than being surrounded." "This." "Yes, my lord." The crypt demons rushed over in groups, while Lin Muyu swung her sword to fight. Sword chi raged out, covering the ground with sword marks. At the same time, Lin Muyu circulated her divine power and activated the astral arts with her sacred martial power. Starlight erupted outside the city, and even the ground began to tremble. Inside the city, on the watchtower, a group of people were frowning. The person who had been talking at the watchtower just now had an ashen face. He was a man around 40 years old, wearing half a suit of armor, and his expression was solemn. Right in front of him were a few young people. One of them was a girl with a ponytail. She said unhappily, "Uncle Wang, are we just going to watch 2 people outside the city die in the mouths of demons? What else can we do? They only have themselves to blame for traveling at night. But their strength is unfathomable. They were able to survive the siege of the crypt demons. Wouldn't it be a pity if such talents died because of exhaustion? We are just a group of exiles. We do not have the right to enter a spectacle like the City of Dawn. We can only stay behind in a small city like Aliot. What we can do is very limited. The number 1 rule of survival in the Eternal Sword domain is not to do things that are beyond our capabilities. Moreover, the 2 people outside are from the Hunters' League. The Hunters' League is cruel and ruthless, so it's best that we don't provoke them. It would be best if they died at the hands of the demons." Uncle Wang smiled faintly, his gaze gentle. But the girl was still a little nervous. The 2 young men behind her immediately advised, "Forget it, Leah. Don't go against Uncle Wang's wishes. He's doing this for our own good. What we should do is guard the city and prevent the fiends from attacking." "All right, the city fell silent, but the rumbling sounds of battle outside the city lasted for a long time until the next day. Although there was no sunlight, the crypt demons still retreated while wagging their tails. These demons were afraid of light and were not willing to fight a god during the day, let alone a god that seemed impossible to defeat. On the watchtower, Uncle Wang, Leah, and the others were stunned. When they opened the city gate, they saw the densely packed corpses of the crypt demons outside. When the city gates slowly opened, the residents in the city cheered. How is this possible? Leah was dumbfounded. Uncle Wang frowned. At that moment, two figures flew into the air. Lin Muyu and Chang Wei appeared on the watchtower. Chang Wei raised his sword and slashed at Uncle Wang, shouting, "You be ****starred. You're leaving us in the lurch." Chang Wei's sword was so fast that Uncle Wang could not dodge it in time. On the other hand, Leah was extremely fast. The rusty iron sword in her hand blocked Chang Wei's attack with a clang, but she was also sent flying back. She slid several meters along the wooden plank and landed on the ground. Her entire body charged at Chang Wei like a beam of light. What a fast speed! Lin Muyu exclaimed in admiration. Chang Wei's training was not focused on speed, but strength. After being attacked twice in a row, he was starting to feel tired. The girl's long sword was full of dents and it looked like it was about to break. Once the long sword broke, she would not be able to escape death. Lin Muyu had seen Chang Wei's killing methods before. Enough, Lin Muyu said. Chang Wei hurriedly put away his long sword and quickly retreated. However, the young girl did not let him off. Her figure moved up and down rapidly as she slashed at the guard's head with her sword. I said that's enough. Lin Muyu suddenly moved her arm horizontally. The Xianyuan sword was unsheathed by an inch, and just this inch happened to block the girl's iron sword. Suddenly, there was a clang. The iron sword broke, but the Xianyuan sword was naturally unscathed. Leah took a few steps back, her beautiful and slightly wild face full of horror. She looked at Lin Muyu and said, "You. How did you do it?" Lin Muyu said, "We're just here to ask for an explanation. Why did you leave us in the lurch last night?" Uncle Wang was silent. The group of able-bodied men behind him were just as silent. The two people in front of them were able to fight the demons for an entire night without dying. This meant that their strength had already reached a very terrifying level. Perhaps it wouldn't take much effort for them to slaughter the entire city of Aleut. Finally, Uncle Wang said, "The eternal sword domain is full of variables and dangers. We don't dare to easily take in outsiders, and we don't dare to open the city gates without permission. Otherwise, once the demons enter the city, wouldn't the two of you be the cause of disaster for all the residents of the city?" Chang Wei grinned and scolded, "Old thing, it's easy for you to say. If it weren't for the fact that the two of us fought the demons, I'm afraid the two of us would have already been torn apart by the cave demons." That girl was holding a broken sword, but there was a hint of hostility on her face. She said, "Are you here for revenge? Then come at me." Lin Muyu smiled faintly. "No, I'm not here for revenge. I'm just borrowing your place to sleep for a day. I exhausted myself last night, so I don't have the strength to continue on the road." Uncle Wang was relieved. "If it's just for a night, then there's no problem." Lin Muyu nodded. "Thank you." Outside the city, countless residents of Aleut had already gone out, holding kitchen knives, hatchets, and other things in their hands. They ran towards the corpses of the cave demons, all of them dancing in joy. What are they doing? Lin Muyu held a bowl of soup in one hand as she looked outside the city. There were only a few wild vegetables in the bowl, but it was still hot soup. After a tiring night, drinking a bowl of hot soup could be considered a form of enjoyment. Uncle Wang said, "Aren't you from the Eternal Sword Domain?" "I just arrived," Lin Muyu said. Uncle Wang was relieved. "So that's how it is. Look, although these crypt demons are covered in hard armor and their bodies are filled with corrosive poison, the muscles on their backs are very developed. Those muscles are very good ingredients. One crypt demon has about 50 kilograms of meat. We have to cut off this meat as soon as possible. Otherwise, the surrounding cities will definitely come to snatch the crypt demon corpses. That meat looks so disgusting. Can you eat it? Lin Muyu was stunned. What's there to eat? When people are hungry, they don't care that much. Lin Muyu looked at him again and said, "What's your name? What are you doing here?" "Me?" Uncle Wang smiled slightly. "My name is Wang Fun. I'm a martial arts master who was exiled. Later, I wandered to Aleut and stayed here. The wanderers of Aleut asked me to stay and teach their children martial arts. These youngsters with extraordinary cultivation were organized into teams to defend the city, so the number of people in Aleut increased day by day." Lin Muyu smiled faintly. Her gaze swept over Ria behind her. "This girl's cultivation isn't bad." Wang Fun chuckled. "Ria is a rare martial arts genius. Moreover, she is naturally agile. She has already obtained divine power in just 10 years of martial arts cultivation. Nowadays, there is no one in this small city who can compare to Ria in terms of strength. Even as her teacher, I can only concede defeat." Ria blinked her eyes and said, "Big brother, although Uncle Wang said that, I know I can't beat you." Lin Muyu said, "Your potential can continue to be developed. Whether you can beat me in the future is still a variable." The guard at the side was slightly taken aback. "Your Excellency, don't tell me you've taken a fancy to her?" Ria was also taken aback. Lin Muyu played it down. "What I'm interested in is Ria's ability. After a little improvement, her speed should be above mine. If she just stays in Aleut, it would be a pity for this plane." Wang Fun was shocked. "Your Excellency, are you thinking of taking Ria away?" "Yes, there is a wider world outside. However, I respect her choice. If she is willing to leave Aleut with me to train in the outside world, I will take her with me. If she is not willing, then forget it." Wang Fun looked at Ria, his eyes full of reluctance. Ria also looked at everyone and murmured, What should I choose?" "Follow your heart, Ria. Are you willing to follow him out to train? Once you go, I'm afraid it will be very difficult for you to return," Wang Fun said. Ria pursed her red lips and said, "I don't want to leave everyone, I don't want to leave Aleut, but I really want to pursue greater strength, I want to make myself stronger, then go, we can't be an obstacle to you becoming stronger." Wang Fun waved his hand lightly, his face full of confusion. The child he had nurtured for so many years was going to be taken away just like that, but what could he do? Anyone could see that Lin Muyu's cultivation exceeded Wang Fun's by more than 1.5 stars. Once she followed Lin Muyu, Ria would become stronger, but if she followed Wang Fun, she might waste her life's aptitude and combat talent. Chapter 12:19. Late at night, the outside of the city was full of noise. The crypt demons seemed to have surrounded Arliet, but the city was too sturdy, so the demons could not break through and could only wander around anxiously. A bonfire was lit on the stone floor of the observation deck, and everyone gathered around it. Lin Muyu took out a large beef leg from her cosmic bag, and Chang Wei roasted it for everyone to eat. Ria hugged her knees and sat quietly beside Lin Muyu. "Master, what's wrong, Ria?" "I'm leaving Arliet tomorrow. This is the first time I've left Arliet since I was born. The people in the village said that when Ria was born, her mother died from excessive blood loss. Ria is a person born with a curse. Aren't you afraid that Ria will harm you?" "No." Lin Muyu smiled faintly. "Even if you're the bane of all time, you won't be able to kill me. My life is tough. Chang Wei, what do you think? Are you afraid that Ria will bring bad luck?" As Chang Wei oiled the beef, he said, "I don't know if my life is tough, but it's definitely tough." Ria was speechless. Lin Muyu ignored him and continued. "Ria, do you have any unfulfilled wishes in Arliet? If you do, go and fulfill them. We don't know when we'll be back again." "Master, Ria's sword was made for me by Uncle Wang. I've used it for many years, but this morning, that. Lin Muyu smiled and rummaged through her cosmic bag for a while. Soon, an exquisite thin sword appeared in her hand. It was a very delicate sword, but its sharpness was obvious. This sword was found in the 64 domains. It was a subdivine artifact. This sword, do you like it? Ah, Ria's beautiful eyes became hazy, and her mouth opened wide. Is this a legendary divine artifact? A subdivine artifact, but not far from being a divine artifact. This sword's name is Star Trace. You must cherish it in the future. Star Trace will become your most loyal companion. Yes, thank you, Master. Leah was overjoyed. She held the star trail in her hands and couldn't bear to part with it. The guard looked at him from the side and said, Darren, you are biased. Of course I'm biased. Ria is my student and you're just a passerby, the guard. In any case, we have gone through thick and thin together. That sword of yours is also a sacred artifact. Don't talk about it. Just wait until it breaks. I don't have that many of them here. Don't be too greedy. The next day, the three of them left Aleut. The captain was still carrying his own bag of food, and Ria did not have much to carry. She and Lin Miyu left the city empty-handed, heading towards Dawnlight City. The daytime in the Eternal Sword domain is very short, less than 10 hours. Hence, we have to find a place to rest within these 10 hours. Otherwise, we'll once again become the hunting targets of the nighttime demons. The guard said as he walked in the wilderness, I feel pairs of eyes staring at me. It must be the crypt demons eyeing us again. Let them watch us. It's fine, Lin Muyu said casually. Ria seemed to be in a good mood. She walked beside Lin Muyu with her hands behind her back and said with a smile, Master, you haven't told me what you're going to teach me yet. Lin Muyu smiled. Your speed can be increased a little more. Also, Ria, have you noticed that although your attacks are fast, they aren't sharp enough? What you should be practicing is to truly form an effective attack. If each of your attacks were fast, accurate, and ruthless, I'm afraid you could have killed the guard yesterday. The guard grinned. I really owe the two of you in my previous life. Ria chuckled. Then what should I do? I have a martial arts manual here. You just need to follow and practice it. Lin Muyu took out a wind-walking technique manual from her Cosmos sack and handed it to her. This wind-walking technique was one of the 11 second-class martial arts manuals in the Holy Temple of Lanyan City. It was also the only martial arts manual known for its speed of cultivation. Ria took the martial arts manual with a face full of joy. Thank you, Master. The wind-walking technique is used to cultivate speed and attack methods. It will allow each of your attacks to be as fast as lightning. Furthermore, Ria, your strength is too weak. You can't become a first-class powerhouse with only speed but no strength. I will teach you another astral technique in the future. I hope you will practice it well and not be lazy. Thank you, Master. Ria understands. Zhang Wei rubbed his nose. He wanted to die, but he couldn't leave. Right now, Lin Muyu was like an umbrella protecting him. Once he left Lin Muyu, there was a high chance that Zhang Wei would be hunted down by the Hunters League. That was no laughing matter. In the blink of an eye, more than 8 hours had passed. Ria was indeed a martial arts prodigy. In just 8 hours, she had already comprehended the wind-walking technique and had gained some experience. Lin Muyu wasn't in a hurry. She first let her learn the wind-walking technique. When she had some small success in the wind-walking technique, she would teach her the astral technique to increase strength. The astral technique was domineering and vigorous. Complemented by great speed, it would have amazing power. As they were walking, a gurgling sound suddenly came from underground. What's that sound? It comes from underground. Ria bit her red lips and said, I've heard this sound once before. That time, 17 of Ariat's people were killed by the demons. What does this sound have to do with the demons? Lin Muyu was stunned. It's the queen insect that gives birth to the crypt demons. Zhang Wei frowned and said, Madam, let's go and find a cave to hide in. Otherwise, I'm afraid there will be trouble tonight. The crypt demon's queen insect, I want to see it. Lin Muyu said lightly, 2 nights ago, it put us in such a difficult situation. It's impolite not to reciprocate. I want to see. As he spoke, he felt the queen insect's aura. He raised his hand and used the elephant's invisible art to move a boulder in front of him. Suddenly, a cave snaked into the depths of the ground. Lin Muyu even felt another aura. It was a very vigorous and vast power. You guys stay outside and wait for me. Yes, master. You have to be careful. Don't worry. Lin Muyu unsheathed her sword and flew into the cave. Suddenly, everything turned dark. Accompanied by hissing sounds, the crypt demons guarding the cave rushed over, but they were all killed with a single slash. After Lin Muyu killed over 100 crypt demons, a bright light appeared in front of her. Sure enough, there was a huge insect lying there with a very high belly. This was her spawning period. In professional terms, this huge insect was the queen insect, and also one of the queens of this race. But the key point was that Lin Muyu felt a powerful force in the queen insect's body, a force that did not belong to the demons. A primordial stone, it must be a primordial stone. Hiss, the queen insect felt an enemy enter its nest and began to move its body to resist, but Lin Muyu was too fast. With a single slash, she sent the queen insect's head flying. She then opened her hand and the power of the Saint Martial surged as she shouted, "Come out!" The queen insect's abdomen exploded, and a bright primordial stone floated in the air. Radiant primordial stone. Lin Muyu never thought that there would be such a pure radiant primordial stone in a place like this. After refining the primordial stone, she put it in her hand and quickly left the cave filled with a fishy smell. When Lin Muyu flew out, Zhang Wei was stunned when he saw the radiant primordial stone. My god, that is a god's gem? What god's gem? Lin Muyu was also stunned. Lord War God, the gem in your hand is a god's gem. I have seen it once in the alliance leader's hand. The god's gem is very precious, and it is a treasure that all lords fight for. This thing is called radiant primordial stone in the 6 realms. Lin Muyu put the primordial stone into her cosmos sack and said, this is something that I urgently need. Is there another place that has it? Rhea shook her head, at a loss. Zhang Wei said, every insect queen needs a powerful source of power to hatch a powerful crypt fiend. According to this inference, every insect queen isn't a coincidence. We all have God's gem, but no one has ever obtained one from an insect queen before. Why? Zhang Wei had a helpless expression. Not everyone in the Eternal Sword region is as brave as you, Lord, daring to barge into a demon's nest alone. Lin Muyu said angrily, all right, let's not talk about it anymore. Let's go. We need to hurry and find a place to stay. I have just destroyed a demon's nest, and they might be looking for us to take revenge tonight. Yes. Zhang Wei was also very worried. 5 kilometers away, they found a valley and a secret cave in the valley. The 3 of them withdrew their auras and spent the night in the cave. This time, they did not dare to roast meat, afraid that the smell would attract the crypt demons. So, the 3 of them only ate some dry rations. In the middle of the night, a strong wind blew outside again, and the hissing of the crypt demons could be heard in the distance. They had formed groups and were searching for the whereabouts of the enemy. Leah was like a nimble bat on a rock at the entrance of the cave. After observing for a while, she floated over and sat beside Lin Muyu. Master, there are so many crypt demons, at least tens of thousands. The whole valley is full of them. They are pulling rocks and digging the ground to find us. I wonder if they will find us here. No, the crypt demons don't know how to climb trees or rock walls, and the cave we're in is on a rock wall. They won't be able to find us. Lin Muyu smiled confidently. She was still holding the Xianyuan sword and resting with her eyes closed. Leah smiled sweetly. All right, master. Uncle Zhang Wei, you go and guard the cave. Master and I will sleep for a while. Zhang Wei was unhappy. Why do I have to do something like keeping watch? Master, you are too tired from protecting us during the day, and I have to cultivate, so I am even more tired. You are the only one with nothing to do. If you don't do it, who will? Zhang Wei grinned. Little girl, you have a sharp tongue. I am not as hard as you. Chapter 12:20. Amidst the vast universe, beams of light flew into the domain formed by the heavenly sound scroll, creating ripples. As if falling into a pool of water, a few new names appeared one after another. How many is this? Fan Yang asked. Meiyu said, the third one, the third pillar deity within 2 days. Looks like the heavenly melody scroll is no longer stingy with the quota of pillar deities, sending 3 avatars in a row. I wonder what kind of experts they are. Luanxing squinted his eyes and smiled. Han Zi, from the upper primordial realm, titled Sea God, in charge of the heavenly Tao of the ocean, a 3rd grade higher god. Tu Lei, from a plane under the jurisdiction of the Western Heaven realm, titled Summer God, a 1st grade middle god. Zhuoya, a newborn goddess from the wildlands of the north, titled God of Life, a 3rd grade higher god. Not long after, the 3 of them should be summoned by the heavenly sound scroll to ascend to the heaven realm and head to their respective god realms to participate in the god wars. Fan Yang smiled. It's a good thing that the heavenly sound scroll is no longer stingy. Miue said thoughtfully, I wonder how little junior brother is doing in the eternal sword domain. I can't sense his aura at all. Fan Yang comforted, junior sister Miue, don't worry too much. Little junior brother is talented and will definitely turn misfortune into fortune. Besides, with your cultivation, you naturally can't see the eternal sword domain. That's a place that only master's cultivation can compare to. Is that so? Miue turned to look at the mountain of gold, where Fuxi stood majestically, silently looking at the vast universe. At this time, Fuxi had already entered a meditative state, so it was not convenient for Miue to disturb him. She could only sigh and continue guarding the lonely land of gold. The Western Heaven realm was in charge of countless planes, and one of them was at the western border. It was a very small planet, about the same size as Earth. This plane was called Lost Chi, which meant tranquil and beautiful. It was probably because it was too far away that this plane was not affected by the demon realm. Mara's army did not even reach here. It was a summer night, and the sky was covered with layers of clouds. It seemed like a storm was coming, which made the people on the ground feel even hotter. The small village was peaceful, and the people were holding a bonfire party to celebrate the summer god. The summer god, the god of passion and harvest, was the most revered god in the whole continent. More importantly, after the opening of the Mahayana heavenly Tao, a young man named Tully from Lasai obtained supreme power and the title of the summer god. Beside the bonfire, a group of people sat quietly at the edge of the laughter and cheers, savoring the food in their hands. It was a type of potato food, sweet and delicious. The firelight shone on the face of a young man. His face was still filled with respect. He said to the man in a cloak beside him, the heavenly sound scroll has been summoned. I plan to ascend to the heaven realm tomorrow. What do you think? The man in the cloak said lightly, this is your choice, why ask me? But, you are the ruler of the Western Heaven realm. Tully, you can only choose this kind of thing. The Western Heaven realm has long fallen, you really want to go? The heavenly sound scroll's decree is the heavenly Tao. I obtained the Dharmakaya because of the heavenly sound scroll, so I must go. Lord Ruler, do you have anything else to say? No, take care of yourself. The demon realm is everywhere in the heaven realm. Your power is like a firefly in the night, and can be extinguished by the storm at any time. I'm not afraid, I can definitely do it. I hope so. At this moment, the faint sound of thunder came from the clouds in the sky. One could even see the traces of bright dragon crystals. It was a sign that someone had penetrated through the layers of space walls. What's wrong? Tully was shocked. Someone is coming. No, it should be said that a god is coming. Claude's face, which was hidden under the cloak, showed a hint of shock. Who would be able to find a plane like Lash? He said. I'll go meet this person. Be careful. Yes. With a shout, Tully had already turned into a blazing flame and soared into the sky. A fiery sharp blade appeared in his hand, and he slashed at the person in the clouds. Hong. A golden light shone through the clouds. It was a beautiful woman in a cloak, holding a bright divine sword in her hand. Who else could it be but Qin Yin? Qin Yin, who had just successfully traversed through the plain, saw a young man pouncing on her with a fierce attack. Without thinking, she waved the East Flower sword and split it apart. Bang! Waves of air surged in the sky. With one blow, Tully was blasted back. Obviously, his mid-god body could not be compared to Qin Yin's high-god body. Buzz buzz buzz, golden flames circled around the long sword. Qin Yin looked at the person in front of her indifferently. Your body contains the power of the Mahayana heavenly Tao. Who are you? Qin Yin, who was traversing, did not know about the new god. Why do you care who I am? What are you doing in Lost Chi? I'm looking for someone. Who? Claude. You're looking for the Lord Ruler? Tully gritted his teeth. I didn't expect there to be someone like you among the orthodox gods. Eat my blade. He suddenly raised his flaming longsword, and it was as if he had gathered all the heat in the summer. A suffocating power rushed towards Qin Yin. This god of summer's power was indeed not bad. At least, it was enough to make Qin Yin feel threatened. Unfortunately, the ability of Qin Yin's Dharmakaya was the power of order, and the power of the summer god was obviously one of the powers of order. With a casual glance from Qin Yin, the power of Tully's attack was instantly weakened by half. Qin Yin easily blocked Tully's long sword with a celestial dragon crystal. She raised her palm, and a terrifying power whistled out. Boom! Tully's body seemed to be on fire. He fell from the sky and fell straight into the forest at the edge of the village. But he was only injured, not dead. He turned over and stood up. With a fierce look in his eyes, he said, I'm not afraid of you. Come on, kill me if you dare, you murderer from another world. Sure enough, he was still too young. Qin Yin didn't want to pay any attention to this summer god. She had already sensed Claude's whereabouts. She floated over and landed on the edge of the bonfire. The people who were dancing knelt on the ground, trembling. They had never seen a god before, and this kind of person who could fly in the air was a legendary god. Moreover, Qin Yin's power was extremely vast. It went without saying who she was. Protect the master. A group of crippled gods who originally belonged to the Western god realm pulled out their weapons and stood in front of Claude. Claude smiled bitterly. Sheen, so it's you, master, long time no see. Qin Yin stepped forward and gently pushed her palm outwards. Suddenly, people in front of her were swept away like leaves in a strong wind. When she came straight in front of Claude, she said, Master, I came to Lost Chi on the order of the Seraph Shiyen to ask you for something that originally belonged to the divine realm. Oh. Claude said lightly, so Shiyen is not dead yet. Big sister Shiyen is not the only one who didn't die. Huahua, Li Fei, Terralin and the others are also alive. Right now, we're working so hard to support the Western God realm, but we need even more resources. We don't have such precious resources, so we can only seek them from you, ruler. What is it that makes a graceful goddess like you come to such a remote and barren land? Light raw stones. Why ask when you know the answer? Light raw stones? Claude smirked and said, those radiant primordial stones belong to me in the first place. Why should I give them to you? Just because you are the righteous gods of the Mahayana heavenly Tao? No. Qin Yin shook her head and said, the light raw stones do not belong to you. They belong to the Western heaven realm. Since you have given up on the Western Heaven realm, then the light raw stones are only temporarily stolen by you. Return them to me. The Western Heaven realm needs these light raw stones to fight against the demon realm. I will not make things difficult for you because you were once the master. Unfortunately, you are too late. Why? When we left the Western Divine Realm, we were already chased by the demon realm. We lost most of the light raw stones along the way. Now, there are only a dozen or so light raw stones left in my hands. Xin Yin had already extended her spiritual sense. In a short period of time, she had investigated all the high-energy auras on this planet. Sure enough, it was as Claude said. There were only 12 light raw stones on this continent, and they were all in Claude's bag. In that case, please return these 12 light raw stones to me. Thank you, Master. Xin Yin opened her hands. Claude sighed. He could only take out the stones from the bag and hand them over to Xin Yin. Master Dominator. The group of useless gods glared at her. No one had expected Xin Yin to ask for the stones so directly. These stones were priceless treasures in the eyes of those who practiced the law of light. At this moment, a flame attacked from behind. It was Summer Deity Tully. Have you had enough of this nonsense, Summer Deity? There was a hint of anger in Qin Yin's eyes. She suddenly waved her palm behind her. With the celestial dragon crystal and the power of order, there was a loud bang. Summer Deity Tully was sent flying with his sword. He smashed through 7 or 8 trees like a cannonball before stopping. For a moment, the forest was filled with the sound of trees falling and Tully's muffled groans. Claude and the rest of the useless gods were dumbfounded. They were both Mahayana heavenly Tao, but Summer Deity Tully was so vulnerable in front of a graceful goddess like Qin Yin. Sheen! Claude suddenly shouted. His voice was a little hoarse. What's the matter, Master Dominator? Can you really take back the Western Divine Realm? In his heart, Claude still yearned to go back. Qin Yin smiled slightly. I don't know. We are not confident, but we will try our best to fight against the demon realm. This is the mission of the Mahayana Heavenly Tao. Master Dominator, no matter what you have instilled in Summer Deity, you should ask him to go to the Divine Realm as soon as possible. The Divine Realm needs his power. As Summer Deity, there is no reason for him to hide in this corner of the world. I know, Claude didn't say a word. Chapter 12:21. After Qin Yin left, Tully returned to Claude's side and said respectfully, Lord Juggernaut, who is this powerful woman? Why? Tully. Claude said, she is the goddess of grace, Qin Yin, also known as Sheen. She is Shi Yan's younger sister and was once one of the battle angels of the Western Divine Realm. From what Sheen said, Shi Yan and Eva have already begun to rebuild the Western Divine Realm. You are a god under the jurisdiction of the Western Divine Realm. Go, do your best for the Mahayana Heavenly Tao and the world. This is something you must do as the Summer Goddess. You are still young and have a long way to go. Work hard and you may be able to reach Sheen's level. Lord Juggernaut, Can I really do it? Rest for a night and ascend tomorrow morning. I believe that Shi Yan and Eva are waiting for you, the Summer Goddess. Yes, I understand. After Tully left, an old man in a black robe appeared behind Claude and said, Juggernaut, are you really going to hand over the Western Divine Realm to the 2 traitors, Shi Yan and Eva? What else can I do? Claude let out a bitter laugh. The era that belonged to me has already passed. I will accept my fate. Furthermore, I also hope that the Western God Realm can rise and prosper once more. Elder Kate, do you still remember when I was young? I once swore to become a great seraph and bring glory to the Western Divine Realm. After so many years, it seems that these vows have long been forgotten. It was only when I lost my power and everything that I remembered my promise. I don't want to get myself involved in that endless abyss again. Elder Kate smiled faintly and said, maybe you're right. Everyone has their own ambitions. Fine, let's see what Shi Yan and Eva can do. Don't worry. Since Xin is already in the Western Divine Realm helping Shi Yan find the luminous primordial stone, it means that Tang Xiaoxi, who is almost inseparable from Xin, is also in the Western Divine Realm. Perhaps the legendary martial god Lin Muyu is also working for the Western Divine Realm. Shi Yan will do it. She will do everything that I want to do but am unable to do, Elder Kate. A shooting star streaked across the sky and disappeared into the horizon in the blink of an eye. Humans were like this, and so were gods. The only thing that never changed was the universe. The only difference between humans and gods was the length of their lifespans. However, in the vast river of time, their lifespans were as short as a firefly's beam or a small boat's leaf. In the shattered cauldron realm, the spirits of all living things were gradually recovering. In the forest, an old man sat quietly on a flat rock. Around him were the sounds of deer chirping and wild apples eating. Wisps of spiritual light lingered around him. The old man's hair and beard had long turned white, but his face was still very ruddy. The dragon bone staff in his hand was glowing faintly. Swoosh! A golden light fell from the sky and landed on him. He didn't even need to think to know what had happened. At that moment, he had an insight into the laws and the true meaning of the heavenly Tao. Around him, the barren grassland began to recover. The grass and leaves grew at an astonishing speed. In the blink of an eye, the area within a radius of a few miles had become a lush forest. It was very different from the early spring scenery in other regions. This was the power of recovery, and it was also the power that Chu Chu was about to obtain. Clang! There was a muffled sound of thunder in the sky. The heavenly melody scroll slowly unfolded, and Chu Chu's name was clearly written on it. Goddess Nuwas Dharmakaya appeared in the sky and said in an extremely calm voice, Chu Chu, you have distanced yourself from disputes and have compassion for all living things. You have obtained the approval of the heavenly melody scroll of the Mahayana heavenly Tao. Today, I will bestow upon you the Dharmakaya of a first-tier middle god. You will be titled as the God of Recovery and will be bestowed with the power of recovery. I hope that you will inherit the heavenly Tao and protect the Mahayana heavenly Tao for all living things in the world. Swoosh! A huge golden figure seeped into Chu Chu's body. That was his Dharmakaya. In the blink of an eye, Chu Chu seemed to have become much younger. His hair had turned white, and his face was rosier. He said joyfully, "Thank you, Goddess, for bestowing this Dharmakaya. Chu Chu will do his best to subdue demons and devils for all living things." Goddess Nuwa's figure slowly faded away. Chu Chu stood up and looked at the animals gathering around him. He smiled and said, "All of you, go and start your new life. It's time for me to leave. The heaven realm needs the strength of this old bag of bones." The deer, rabbits, and other animals seemed to understand Chu Chu's words and dispersed one after another. Chu Chu took a deep breath and soared into the sky, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Tianji City. Amidst the pavilions, a handsome man looked up at the sky and said, "Another one who has ascended to become a god. It's Chu Chu. Even Chu Chu has ascended. We, the younger generation, are still idling around here waiting to die. Prince Xian, what are you saying?" Lin Sun smiled and said, "Chu Chu's name has long spread across the world. It's only a matter of time before he gets his Dharmakaya. Moreover, we're not idling around here waiting to die." Feng Jixing smiled and said, "Zhang Wei, how's the military situation at the eastern battlefield?" Zhang Wei cupped his fists and said, "There's not much resistance at all. After Qin Yu's henchmen were wiped out, basically all the provincial governors of the Celestial Empire surrendered at the mere sight of us. They don't dare to resist the cavalry of our imperial guards at all. That's within expectations." Feng Jixing's lips curled up and he said, "We must pacify the entire realm within a month. Do you understand?" "Yes, we don't need a month. Half a month will do." At the side, Guan Xing cupped his fists and said, "Prince Xian, I have something to say." "Mister, please speak." After discussion, the Congress decided to establish 2 great congresses 2 days ago. After the vote, Guo Huaili will be appointed as the chief of the Lanyan City Imperial Congress, ruling over the entire Shattered Cauldron realm. Meanwhile, the deputy chief, Jiang Qi, will rush to the Celestial Pole Continent as soon as possible to take up the position of the chief steward of the Celestial Pole Continent's Congress, taking charge of all the political affairs in the Celestial Pole Continent. Feng Jixing furrowed his brows and sat down on the railing, remaining silent. Zhang Wei said, "This so-called Congress is just creating trouble." Before Her Highnessing left, she clearly said that all the important military and political affairs in the Celestial Pole Continent will be managed by Prince Xian alone. Why is this Jiang Qi creating trouble again? Feng Jixing nodded and said, "The 4th clause of the Empire's constitution states that all the political affairs shall be managed by the Congress. It's within expectations that they'll send Jiang Qi to take charge of the political affairs. It seems that it's just as you said. Guo Huaili, that old fox, is already taking charge of all the political affairs in the world." Lin Sun's gaze was filled with killing intent. "Why don't I send someone to the Shattered Cauldron realm to kill Guo Huaili?" "No." Feng Jixing waved his hand and said, "Now that the world is stable, the commoners need a stable life. Guo Huaili has long been recognized by the commoners as the most capable subject in the world. If we were to get rid of Guo Huaili now, it'd mean that we become enemies with all the people in the world and become the criminal warlords that you spoke of. Let's just bear with it. It's fine as long as Guo Huaili doesn't go overboard. As for that Jiang Qi, if he wants to take charge of the political affairs in the Celestial Pole Continent, then let him do so. I'm happy to see Xiao Yao. But," Zhang Wei said, "are we just going to let these vile people defecate and piss on our heads?" Feng Jixing smiled. "If he really dares to defecate, then I'll help him support him. Zhang Wei, you old brat, remember this. Don't mess things up. It's easy to kill Guo Huaili, but once you kill one, a second Guo Huaili will soon appear. From the previous emperor until now, Jin Yifan, Tang Lan, Su Muyun, Zhuang Yan, and so on have appeared one after another. Which one of them isn't a person that no one dares to approach for a while? But now, where are they? There'll always be someone controlling the political affairs, and we can't kill them all. What we can do now is to respect him a little, and he has to respect us a little." "I understand." "Oh right, is there any news from Lanyan City? Are Chu Yao, Wei Chou, and the others all right? They've arrived at Lanyan City safely." Guan Xing smiled. "Don't worry about that. Great Deacon Chu Yao is the person in charge of the spiritual medicine department, and she's protected by the Dragon League experts. Lord Wei Chou is the commander of the Longdan army camp, known as the commander with the strongest military force. Guo Huaili wouldn't dare to touch the Longdan army camp even if he had 10,000 guts." "Yes, that's right." Feng Jixing nodded. Times had changed. Back then, Zhuang Yan dared to act like a tyrant because he had 700,000 soldiers and had internal and external troubles. But now it was different. The world was stable, and the Longdan army camp was the strongest army in the world. 200,000 soldiers guarded Lanyan City all year round, serving as the Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards. It could be said that Wei Chou controlled the military affairs of the entire Shattered Tripod realm single-handedly, and he also had the support of famous generals such as Ding Shi and Tang Zhen. Guo Huaili could at most be in charge of political affairs, but he definitely couldn't be in charge of military affairs. Lin Sun suddenly coughed and said, "General Feng, have you agreed to Miss Si Kongyao's matchmaking for you?" What did you say?" Feng Jixing was dumbfounded. Lin Sun said, "That, it's the Empire's Shang Li Shangqian. Miss Si Kongyao said that as long as you give the word, she'll go and lobby for you. Shangqian is also single now. She's pretty and rich. If I were you, I'd marry her." "Marry your granny." Feng Jixing said, "I can do whatever I want to do happily and freely by myself. Why do I have to marry a wife and have her manage me? You guys are still too young. Moreover, Shangqian isn't my type." Then, What type does your highness like? Someone with a good disposition, a pretty face, big breasts, a good figure, a good temper, understanding, not clingy, and not mischievous. What do you guys have to introduce? Zhang Wei grinned. Drunken Cloud Brothel's little Yanxiang, all right. Feng Jixing clapped his hands and smiled. Settle all the military affairs before dinner and then go. Yes, your highness is wise. Guan Xing was speechless. He said in a low voice, how are they going to ascend to the Mahayana heavenly way if they're like this? Another night had fallen in the eternal sword domain. This time around, they did not stay in the mountains. After all, it was too dangerous. Lin Muyu, Lia, and Zhang Wei stayed in a tavern. This kind of tavern was protected by thick stone walls. It was like an ancient castle that could withstand the invasion of demons. It was a place that travelers often stayed in. However, the fees were very high. A single person did not need to pay for a night, but they had to pay 15 jin of food. In the eternal sword domain, food was money, and it was even more useful than gold coins. Lin Muyu paid the price of 2 bare legs to stay in the tavern. It was already a blessing from the heavens to be able to spend the night in peace. Chapter 12:22. The tavern was called Shun Feng Tavern. In the eternal sword domain, there were countless taverns like this. There was an endless stream of travelers, and the tavern always made a killing. Lin Muyu, Lia, and Zhang Wei sat at a table by the fireplace. They used the flames in the fireplace to bake some flatbread, and then ate the vegetable soup and roasted meat sold by the tavern. There were about 20 tables scattered in the tavern's main hall, but there were not many customers. Only 5 or 6 tables were occupied. Most of them were people eating with their heads lowered, preparing to head upstairs to rest. Ta. Zhang Wei gently placed the bowl of soup on the table and said in a low voice, "My lord, it seems that we have been targeted. The people at the table in the corner are hunters. I think I've seen one of them before. He has noticed me too. Don't act rashly." Lin Muyu said, "Ignore them. Unless they are prepared to make a move, we will leave tomorrow at daybreak. Don't cause too much trouble." At this time, 5 or 6 martial artists at another table were already drunk. One of them said, "I heard that this afternoon, the people at the Chen mine dug up a demon's lair. When they opened the entrance, the workers were scared out of their wits. They abandoned the mine and ran away. The mine owner was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. He spent so much money to dig up a demon's lair. What bad luck. He can only blame himself for running into a demon. He was lucky enough to keep his life." That's right, that's right. Lin Muyu frowned and said in a low voice, "The Chen mine. Zhang Wei, do you know where this mine is?" "It's not far. It's about 5 kilometers away." "Why, does my lord want to go there?" I need radiant primordial stones. I won't let go of any of them." Ria couldn't help but laugh. Others can't wait to hide when encountering a crypt demon. "Who would come looking for it yourself, master?" Zhang Wei rubbed his nose. "To be honest, the crypt fiends can't hurt my lord. The disparity in strength is too great. However, the mine owner should have sent someone to guard it. Moreover, the news has already spread. There are definitely many people from all over who want to excavate the crypt fiend's lair. After all, a god's gem isn't an ordinary item. It's priceless. A god's gem is worth around 30,000 gold taels. Even if you open 10 mines, you might not be able to earn that much. Are you saying that there will be people going to the demon's lair like us every day at dawn?" "Yes. If I'm not mistaken, this group of people's target is also the demon lair." Zhang Wei pointed to a few tables not far away and said, "Good men and women are already asleep at home. Who would come to such a barren mountain? Those who dare to come here must not be afraid of death. Just wait and see, tomorrow will definitely be lively." Ria blinked. "Master, are we still going?" Sure, why not? All right. In order to save money, the three of them stayed in a room. There was only a small vent in the room, and the wind howled. The only bed was given to Ria. Lin Muyu sat on the windowsill and cultivated the whole night. Zhang Wei leaned against the door and slept the whole night. In fact, everyone was already used to this kind of life. One night with or without a bed. The next morning, they woke up early and drank the rough wild vegetable soup cooked by the innkeeper. It made them feel nauseous. After leaving the tavern, they headed straight for the mine. It didn't take long for them to travel 10 miles. When they arrived, it was already sunrise. Once the sun rose, the demons wouldn't easily leave their lair. They hated sunlight, just like how people feared the dark. As expected, when Lin Muyu and the others arrived at the mine, the wooden fence around the perimeter had already been torn down. The ground was full of messy hoof prints. It was already hot. There was only one pit and one entrance, but now it was surrounded by dozens of people. A few of them were from the tavern last night, and a few others seemed to be from the Hunters' Union. Zhang Wei couldn't help but chuckle. The leader of the Hunters' Union, Luo Xingji, had already ordered the members of the Hunters' Union not to participate in commercial cooperation, and it was obvious that these hunters had been hired. Who are you? Stop. Two warriors came over with swords in their hands and shouted from afar, "This mine is under our control. Unauthorized people, leave immediately." Ria laughed. I remember that this area doesn't belong to anyone. Why do we have to leave when you control it? Besides, why are you so overbearing? Because we are from the Tiger Plain. Can we? One of them looked very arrogant. The Tiger Plain? Lin Muyu frowned. She had no idea what that was. Zhang Wei explained in a low voice, the Tiger Plain is a force in the Eternal Sword region. They have always been robbing people for a living. They recruit disciples everywhere, and their power is getting bigger and bigger. They even dare to challenge the City of Dawn and the Hunters' Union. But in fact, the Tiger Plain force is just a clown. Everyone knows that. What did you say? Someone from the Tiger Plain shouted angrily. I think you are tired of living. Wait a minute. This person was about to attack. Behind him, a person wearing the hunter's badge walked over. He held a broadsword in his hand and smiled calmly. Zhang Wei, it's really you. Zhang Wei squinted his eyes. Long Yu, it's you. This person called Long Yu was not weaker than Zhang Wei. He did not move the broadsword in his hand, but his fighting spirit had already spread. However, he could not see through Lin Muyu's cultivation. His intuition told him that this person did not have any cultivation at all. The only person he had to be wary of was the pretty little girl. So, he did not take Lin Muyu seriously. He said in a low voice, Zhang Wei, didn't you lead your team out to hunt? Why are you suddenly here? And your team has not returned for many days. My team has been destroyed, Zhang Wei said calmly. Ah. Long Yu was a little surprised. That can't be. Your team is full of top-notch experts. Who could have destroyed your team? Although Long Yu looked surprised, the flash of ridicule in his eyes did not escape Lin Muyu's eyes. He was obviously taking pleasure in Long Yu's misfortune. Zhang Wei waved his hand angrily. Don't mention it. After my team was destroyed, I did not dare to return to the headquarters. I could only wander outside and make new companions. But you. Long Yu, you are an outstanding hunter in our alliance. Why did you come here to help people rob others? Moreover, your partner is the ferocious Tiger Plain that has repeatedly disrespected the Hunter Alliance. Humans die for wealth, birds die for food. Long Yu smiled faintly. You won't report the news of my cooperation with the ferocious Tiger Plain to the higher-ups, will you? No, it has nothing to do with me. Zhang Wei smiled slightly. But, we are here for the god's gem in the devil's lair. Since we are already here, it is not good for you to stop us outside, right? Sigh, Long Yu waved his hand. You are treating me like an outsider. It is not that I am stopping you, but everything is first come, first served, right? This devil's lair was discovered by us first, so we should be the first to search. Moreover, the crypt demons inside are not to be trifled with. The 4 experts of the ferocious tiger plane, heaven, earth, unity, and longevity, have already entered. There will be results soon. If you enter at this time, it is unreasonable. Please give me, Long Yu, a little face and wait here for a little longer. Zhang Wei was angry, but he was too embarrassed to force his way in. At this time, Lin Muyu smiled mysteriously. Lord Long Yu, if your people cannot subdue the demons in the lair, will it be our turn? Of course. Long Yu raised his eyebrows. But don't worry, young hero. The 4 experts of the ferocious tiger plane, heaven, and earth will definitely complete their mission. The 4 of them once fought a crypt demon and killed hundreds of them. They have long been famous in the eternal sword domain. Flattening a mere devil's lair will be as easy as stepping on mud. Very well, we shall wait and see. Lin Muyu led Ria to the entrance of the devil's lair. The rest of the ferocious tiger plain people and hunters watched them warily, but did not make a move. After all, Long Yu was the real leader. How many people went in? Zhang Wei asked. Long Yu replied, 21 hunters, the 4 experts of the ferocious tiger plain, and another 14 experts. That's a total of 39 experts. Put them down. With so many well-trained experts, flattening a mere devil's lair will be a piece of cake. Let's hope so. Lin Muyu smiled faintly. What, you don't think so? We will know soon enough. Lin Muyu pulled Ria back a few steps and signaled Zhang Wei to step back as well. It was not that he was looking down on the 4 experts' strength. The 4 experts of the ferocious tiger plain underground were at least at the level of a first-year lower god, but the presence in the devil's lair made Lin Muyu feel that the 4 experts' days of power were over. That presence was awakening quickly, and it was growing rapidly. It was different from the crypt demon and the queen worm. It was a stronger existence. As expected, screams soon came from underground as if someone had died in battle. Then there was a faint beast-like roar. It was definitely not the voice of the crypt demon. Long Yu's face was a little confused, and he held his sword tighter. Ria was a little nervous and asked, Master, what's going on down there? Massacre, a massacre. Lin Muyu's eyes were cold as she said, Be careful, they will come out soon. The so-called 4 experts and the hunter are definitely not a match for the monster underground. Monster. Ria said, Is it a demon? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Lin Muyu smiled bitterly. After all, he had just arrived here. How could he know so much when he was in the eternal sword domain? At that moment, there was a sudden bang. A person was thrown out of the cave. Only half of his body was left, and the lower half had been bitten off. He was already dead. It was a terrifying scene. Long Yu's voice was trembling. Isn't this the longevity expert? It seems that he did not live long. Lin Muyu's eyes were calm. It's coming out. Be careful. Chapter 12:23. Roar. With a roar, a golden claw tore through the hole, and a man holding a broken spear was dragged out. His body was a bloody mess. From the look in Long Yu's eyes, this man was also one of the 4 masters of eternal life with heaven and earth. Those long golden claws were like the claws of a crab. The cave entrance was completely torn open, and a huge golden body appeared in front of everyone. It had the body of a cave demon, but it was much more tyrannical than a cave demon. Its entire body was enshrouded in seemingly invincible aura, and its back was covered in spikes. Its claws trampled on the ground, and it waved its long pincers to attack randomly. Inside the cave, another 2 people drenched in blood rushed out. One of them shouted, What are you waiting for? Let's go together and kill this god insect. God insect? Lin Muyu was stunned. Leah was also stunned. Her small mouth gaped. This is the first time I've seen a real god insect. What is a god insect? Lin Muyu asked. Chang Wei said, the god insect is a type of demon that specializes in combat. It's very rare. This is also the first time I've seen one. According to the ancient records, the god insect's outer shell is indestructible, the spikes on its back are poisonous, and it has the aura of magic armor to protect it. Ordinary masters are no match for it. Also, usually, only giant demon caves will have god insects guarding them. Underground, there are at least 3 mother insects. Doesn't that mean we're rich? Lin Muyu could not stop grinning. Chang Wei said, Madam, should we help? No. Lin Muyu shook her head. Unless they take the initiative to ask for our help, we mustn't interfere. Otherwise, they'll think that we're robbing their devil's lair. You saw how aggressive they were just now. Yes, let them fight. It's best if they all die. That's right. On the ground, Long Yu and more than 20 others joined the fray. Admittedly, Long Yu could be considered an expert, but unfortunately, the divine insect of war was too strong. Every strike of its pincers was incomparably swift and fierce, accompanied by invisible blades of wind. In the blink of an eye, another dozen or so people lost their lives to the fierce attacks of the divine insect of war, and the so-called 4 great experts of the same age as heaven and earth had all died. The god battle bugs even ate the heads of the heaven-class experts. Bang! Long Yu's saber was heavily struck by the golden pincers. The god war insect's ferocious head seemed to be filled with anger. Its countless legs moved quickly, and another pincer swept out. With a puff, Long Yu was sent flying. The sound of ribs breaking came from his armpit. He was already seriously injured. His protective astral energy couldn't withstand the god war insect's fierce attack. Master, the big bug is coming for us. Leah panicked. Don't worry. Lin Muyu gently opened her left palm. Blood-colored lightning surged, quickly strengthening Chang Wei and Leah with the power of the sacred martial. The Xianyuan's sword in her right hand shone brightly. She said, Don't come. Watch me fight. Leah, watch carefully as I use speed to gain an advantage. Yes, master. Long Yu, who was lying under a rock not far away, was dumbfounded. The seemingly unremarkable kid was attacking the terrifying god war insect like a god. Moreover, his aura didn't lose to the god war insect at all. In fact, he even crushed it. Clang! The Xianyuan sword hit the god war insect's pincers. As expected, it couldn't cut it. However, Lin Muyu's body spun rapidly in the air, and she used her speed to dodge the insect's second attack. Instead, the Xianyuan sword swept across the insect's abdomen, dragging sparks behind it. When the god war insect shook its back, Lin Muyu suddenly lowered her body and kicked out with her ankle, knocking down nearly 10 of the god war insect's legs on one side and causing it to lose its balance. The moment the god war insect fell, Lin Muyu raised her sword, and the blade seemed to bring out a mountain from the ground and hit the god war insect's vulnerable abdomen. Pung! This was a strike from the 5 mountains falling from the sky. After suffering such a heavy blow, the god war insect was injured, and dark red blood flowed from its abdomen. Lin Muyu wasn't in a hurry to kill it. She took several steps back to avoid the wounded god war insect's desperate struggle. After it swung its giant arm for the last time, Lin Muyu rushed to it like lightning. The blade glowed with the 7 elements' brilliance, and the surrounding space was slightly distorted. Then, a heavy strike of the 5 elements' 8 wastelands destruction fell. Kacha, the god war insect's entire giant arm was cut off, and it screamed in pain. Lin Muyu retreated again. The most taboo when dealing with such a giant was to kill it with a series of fierce attacks, because no one had the confidence to do so. A god war insect had cultivated for God knows how many years to reach its current level of cultivation, and the vigorous demon qi in its body wasn't inferior to the power of the Mahayana heavenly Tao. Underestimating the enemy would be equivalent to digging one's own grave. Just like that, Lin Muyu retreated again and again, but each attack added new injuries to the god war insect. After 7 or 8 attacks, the god war insect's legs were almost completely removed. Finally, under Lin Muyu's 6 elements heavenly tribulation, the god war insect's ugly head was directly blown up. Pung! Blood exploded everywhere, and the hunters and people of ferocious Tiger Plain who were struggling at death's door on the ground were all stunned. This seemingly inconspicuous young man actually killed a god war insect by himself. How terrifying was he? Even Long Yu couldn't help but tremble all over. He murmured to himself, who is this person, to be able to kill a god war insect by himself? This kind of strength is probably at the level of the leader and Meng Taifeng, right? My god, is the eternal sword domain going to have a new structure? Wait, milord. Zhang Wei said. You can't just throw away the god war insect's body. Can you let me handle it? I can trade it for a mountain of gold and silver. What? According to the ancient books, the flesh of a god war insect can prolong life, and its shell is actually a kind of godly metal. After refining, it can be forged into godly weapons or fine armor. Moreover, according to the ancient books, the god war insect's heart is a gemstone rich in elemental power. It's priceless. How do you know so much about it? Zhang Wei was a little embarrassed. In the past, I once aspired to be a scholar and conquer the entire eternal sword domain with my knowledge. Later, I discovered that it was useless, so I gave up on it and turned to martial arts. Milord, you might not know this, but a god war insect's primary form is a crypt demon. As it grows stronger, its heart begins to mutate and transform into a huge body of energy. That's how it becomes a god war insect. The probability of a crypt demon evolving into a god war insect is 1 in 100 million. We've hit a treasure this time. All right. Lin Muyu glanced at the corpse of the god war insect and said, You and Ria stay outside and deal with the god war insect. I'll go in and look for the primordial stones. Yes. After entering the demon's cave, it was just as Zhang Wei said. There were 7 nests in the demon's cave guarded by the god war insect, and there were also 7 brood mothers laying eggs. After clearing them all, Lin Muyu gained 7 more primordial stones. It felt like she'd found a treasure. When Lin Muyu came out of the demon's cave covered in broodmother's juices, Zhang Wei was laboriously cutting the god war insect's shell, but his blade clearly couldn't cut through it. Move. Lin Muyu said lightly. Oh, after Zhang Wei dodged, Lin Muyu raised her blade and slashed out with dozens of sword auras in the blink of an eye. The god war insect was dismembered, and its shell was already in pieces. Zhang Wei went to retrieve the shell ecstatically. At this time, the injured Long Yu also walked over, holding the wound under his armpit, and said, Milord, who are you? Lin Muyu smiled and said, There seems to be no need for us to know each other, right? And, don't tell me you're going back on your word? We agreed that whoever killed the god war insect would get the demon's cave, and all the spoils of war here today would be ours. Long Yu laughed bitterly. Of course this lowly one knows. We still have to thank Milord for killing the god war insect and saving our lives. We had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. This lowly one just wants to know, who are you, Milord, to be able to kill a legendary god war insect by yourself? Lin Muyu didn't want to make a name for herself in the Eternal Sword region. She shook her head and said, Who I am is not important. To the Eternal Sword region, I'm just a passerby. Take your people and leave before I want to kill you. Yes. Long Yu helped another heavily injured hunter up and staggered away step by step. Zhang Wei stood up and raised his eyebrows. Long Yu, wait. What? When you return to the main altar, don't mention me to anyone, and especially don't mention what you saw here today. Otherwise, not only will you bring trouble to us, but you will also bring disaster to yourself. I know. Don't worry. Long Yu walked away step by step, and this time, he didn't look back. Lin Muyu gave Zhang Wei a dimensional bag so that he could store the shell and the god war insect's heart gem. The gem was actually a crystallized spiritual power, but it had already solidified and was very difficult to refine. In fact, other than looking good for decoration, it had almost no value. It was an existence similar to a diamond. After packing his things, he continued in the direction of Dawn City. To Lin Muyu, the power of the sword realm might not necessarily be in Dawn City. To her, it was a chance to train in this world and find the opportunity to comprehend the power of the sword realm. Life was a purposeless cultivation. The road was under one's feet, and the wonder was in one's heart. What made Lin Muyu the most happy was that there were a total of 15 light primordial stones in her Qingquan bag. Along the way, she destroyed every demon cave she came across. Not only could she help the people of the Eternal Sword Realm get rid of demons, but she could also collect the precious treasures that the Western Divine Realm needed. Once she left the Eternal Sword Realm, things like light primordial stones were not easy to find. Usually, a realm would only produce one after 100 million years. It was too rare. Eastern Heavenly Realm, Hall of Great Accomplishment. Xiao sat on the Demon Emperor's throne and accepted the worship of the new gods. This time, the new gods were a little special. There were a total of 3. One was the sea god Han Zi, the other was the god of recovery Chu Chu, and the third was actually the demon god, Nu Shi. When Nu Shi walked into the hall with her body enshrouded in demonic qi, everyone was stunned and put their guards up. However, Xiao smiled warmly. Don't be nervous, we're on the same side. Nu Shi is a friend of the martial god Lin Muyu, which means she's a member of our Eastern Heavenly Realm. The identity of a righteous god and a demon god will not change the friendship between us. Nu Shi bowed and murmured, "Thank you, Fairy Xiao." Chu Chu did not pay his respects. He said, "Fairy Xiao, if there's anything you need me, Chu Chu, to do, please let me know. I've been waiting for your arrival for a long time." Xiao stood up and said, "Many of the spirit mountains in the god realm have withered and are just waiting for you, the god of recovery, to awaken them. Let's begin immediately. The recovery of spiritual power will be a sign that the Eastern Heavenly Realm will rise again." Yes, this old man obeys. Chapter 12:24. 3 days later, Lin Muyu and the others followed a caravan into Jianghu Valley. This is Snake Scale Valley. Zhang Wei led the horses he had bought and introduced the place as he walked. I came here when I was young. Snake Scale Valley is isolated from the outside world because of the towering mountains on both sides. Even demons can't enter. Instead, it has become a peaceful place. More and more people have settled here, forming a tribe in Snake Scale Valley. They have formed an army to fight against external forces. Moreover, there is an expert living in seclusion in Snake Scale Valley. Oh. Which expert? Lin Muyu asked. Zhang Wei rubbed his nose. The old man of Heavenly South is said to be an expert who has lived in Snake Scale Valley since ancient times. His cultivation is unfathomable, and he lives alone in the deep mountains of Snake Scale Valley. It is said that even experts like Meng Taifeng and Luo Xingji have to give him face. Meng Taifeng once personally invited the old man of Heavenly South to come out, but he was rejected. Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel excited. She asked, "Zhang Wei, do you know where this old man of Heavenly South lives?" "I don't know. I only know that he lives in the mountains and secludes himself from the world." Leah smiled. "Master, why do you want to find this old man of Heavenly South?" "I heard that he has a strange temper. I haven't seen him for hundreds of years." Lin Muyu nodded. "I came to the Eternal Sword Domain to find a power that can fight against the demon realm. If I don't pay a visit to an expert like the old man of Heavenly South, then there's no point in me coming here. Listen up. We won't stay in the city in the valley. We'll take the mountain road. I want to find the old man of Heavenly South." Leah nodded and smiled. Zhang Wei was a little speechless. "Lord Martial God, you're not thinking of challenging the old man of Heavenly South, are you?" "I'm here to learn from him." Lin Muyu smiled. "It's the only thing I can do." "Then let's go. There aren't many mountains in Snake Scale Valley, and there are even fewer deep mountains. We should be able to find the old man of Heavenly South within a few dozen kilometers. After nightfall, the entire Snake-Scale Valley was silent. Looking down from the mountain, the valley was filled with lights and stars. It was an indescribably serene atmosphere. Lin Muyu turned to look at the mountain range in the distance. There seemed to be an expert watching over them from afar. Otherwise, how could there be such a peaceful place like the Snake-Scale Valley in a place like the Eternal Sword Domain, where everyone would be eaten without spitting out their bones? At night, the three of them spent the night in the mountains and immediately set off the next morning. At noon, after passing through a few mountains, the mountain range ahead was hidden in the white clouds. From afar, it looked like a wonderland of immortals. Streams gurgled as they flowed down the mountain range. Occasionally, the cries of deer echoed between heaven and earth. This was indeed a good place to live in seclusion. Lin Muyu held the Xianyuan's sword and stared into the distance. Suddenly, she felt a force in her spiritual mind, and the other party seemed to sense Lin Muyu's existence. Found you. Lin Muyu smiled. Leah, Jianghu, I'll go first. You two follow me. Yes, master. Jianghu was speechless. With a leap, Lin Muyu was already hundreds of meters away. Her body pierced through the clouds and went straight to a certain place in the valley. As expected, after the clouds dispersed, a rather ancient building appeared in front of them. It was a huge place that looked like a Daoist temple. It was built on the mountain wall, and beside it was a flowing waterfall that looked like a long white chain. In front of the building, there were some men and women cultivating and practicing the bright sword. Judging from their skills, half of them had already entered the divine state. Who's there? Among the disciples, a male disciple with the highest cultivation suddenly looked up into the sky and saw Lin Muyu's figure. He rose from the ground and swung his long sword in the air. He shouted in a low voice, "Those who trespass into the heavenly gate shall die." The sword light was like a rainbow. Lin Muyu could not help but be secretly shocked. It was the bright sword technique. This bright sword technique was a side branch of the sword manipulation technique. It was overbearing and fierce, and could not be underestimated. However, Lin Muyu stood in the air like a mountain. The other party's sword continuously bounced off a few meters away from Lin Muyu. Although this disciple's cultivation was not bad, his strength was obviously much weaker than Lin Muyu's. It was difficult to understand him at all. Eldest senior brother. On the ground, a group of disciples rushed into the sky one after another. Some of them whose cultivation was not enough even flew into the air on their long swords. It was indeed similar to the sword manipulation technique. Who exactly are you? The disciple who was addressed as eldest senior brother asked. Lin Muyu smiled respectfully. I'm not here to kick down the mountain gate. I just want to ask, is the elder of Tiannan here? Do you know, master? An extremely beautiful female disciple asked in surprise. No, I don't. Lin Muyu shook her head and said with a smile, I just came because of your reputation. I want to ask Senior for some advice. Another male disciple raised his eyebrows and said, Who exactly are you? Do you think our bright sword forest is a place where you can come and go as you please? Tell me quickly, who exactly are you? Are you a spy sent by the City of Dawn or the Hunters Alliance? Lin Muyu was a little angry. No, you can just report to your master. Don't make things difficult for me here. I don't want to hurt any of you. Arrogant. Eldest senior brother roared angrily. Junior brothers and sisters, set up the sword formation. Immediately, 7 disciples with extraordinary cultivation flew in front of Lin Muyu, forming the position of the Big Dipper. Streams of divine power complemented each other. In the next moment, swords turned into rainbow lights and attacked. The power was endless, growing and multiplying endlessly. Before Lin Muyu even came into contact with the sword formation, she knew that she could not take it head-on. That would only exhaust her power. Therefore, she did not say anything. She suddenly raised her palm, and blood-red lightning surged. Her divine martial power was mixed with the elephant's formless technique. She shouted in a low voice, "All of you, get out of my way. I don't want to hurt you." In the sky, a strong gust of wind swept over, bringing with it the power of the surrounding mountains. In an instant, the 7 male and female disciples seemed to be crushed by mountains. All of them paled and fell down. None of them could withstand a single attack from Lin Muyu. As they fell from the sky, they temporarily lost the ability to fly. They were so frightened that they lost their composure. Just as Lin Muyu was about to fly down to rescue them, the mountain gates suddenly opened. A gentle gust of wind gushed out and supported the disciples one by one. In the next moment, an old man dressed in a white robe with the demeanor of an immortal appeared in the mountain gate. There was no anger on his face, nor was there any joy. "Master. Thank you, Master, for saving us." The group of disciples knelt down, their expressions extremely respectful. Lin Muyu also floated down with the wind. She sheathed the Xianyuan sword, cupped her fists, and said with a smile, "May I ask if you are Elder Tian Nan?" The old man smiled slightly. "That's me. May I know, why have you come to the Bright Sword Forest? Judging from your appearance, you are definitely not from the Eternal Sword Domain. Such an extraordinary cultivation is really rare." Lin Muyu was slightly stunned. They had not even exchanged blows, but Elder Tian Nan seemed to have already seen through his strength. He smiled, and said, "Senior, I am indeed not from the Eternal Sword Domain. I came to the Eternal Sword Domain to pursue a power called the Sword Domain. That's why I came to the Bright Sword Forest. I hope that Senior can teach me a thing or two." "You're looking for the Sword Domain?" Elder Tian Nan could not help but laugh. He stroked his beard and said, "I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. In this old man's Bright Sword Forest, there are only me and a group of disciples. There is absolutely no power of the Sword Domain. Moreover, this old man has been in the Eternal Sword Domain for tens of thousands of years, but I have never known what the Sword Domain is. Young hero, please return. There is nothing here that you're looking for." Lin Muyu cupped his fists respectfully. "Since I don't know what the power I'm looking for is, I naturally have to pay my respects to Senior. Otherwise, wouldn't I have come here for nothing? I don't care if Senior possesses the power of the Sword Domain, but I still feel that I'm shallow and would like to ask Senior for some guidance." A female disciple said somewhat angrily, "Why don't you listen to me? Master has already said that there is nothing here that you want. Why aren't you leaving?" Elder Tian Nan smiled and said, Don't be rude. This young hero has come from afar and is a guest. Since he's here, let's brew some tea for him. Young hero, please follow this old man." "Many thanks, Senior." Lin Muyu strode into the Bright Sword Forest, while the group of disciples looked at him angrily. They all thought that he was an uninvited guest and that he was definitely up to no good by coming here. The Bright Sword Forest was filled with mountain ranges. The plank paths and pavilions were all built in the air. Under Elder Tian Nan's guidance, Lin Muyu entered the depths of the Bright Sword Forest. Not long after, she arrived at the pear altar, only to see that the pear blossoms were in full bloom, as if it was the beginning of spring. It was indeed worthy of the pear altar's reputation. Compared to the barren world outside the Snake Scale Valley, this place was simply like a paradise. "Young hero, please sit." Elder Tian Nan sat cross-legged at the stone table beside the pavilion, while Lin Muyu sat opposite him. The female disciple who was still angry earlier brought over a pot of tea and began to brew it. "All of you, sit down." Elder Tian Nan gave the order, and immediately, the group of disciples sat down in various parts of the pear altar. Everyone surrounded Elder Tian Nan and Lin Muyu in a circle, as if it was the wonderful scene of 100 schools of thought lecturing in ancient times. When the female disciples served the tea, Elder Tian Nan took a sip and said with a smile, "Young hero, where did you come from, and why did you come here? Why don't you tell me?" Lin Muyu cupped her fists and smiled, "My name is Lin Muyu, and I was born in the 6 realms outside the Eternal Sword Domain. I was originally the divine king of the eastern heaven realm, but after the heavenly punishment descended, the gods of the heaven beyond heaven established a new order called the Mahayana Heavenly Tao. Now, I am the martial god of the Mahayana Heavenly Tao. In addition, the devil realm invaded, and tens of millions of Mara went on a rampage. The master of the devil realm, Ziyan, wields the supreme artifact, the god-destroying pagoda. I came here to seek the power of the sword domain in order to deal with the god-destroying pagoda. So many things have happened in the outside world over the years. Elder Tian Nan sighed. Young hero, you are the martial god. Forgive me for not recognizing you. That's just a title, I hope you don't mind. Elder Tian Nan said, since you are so honest with me, I can only be honest with you. In fact, I was exiled to the eternal sword domain more than 80,000 years ago. As for my crime, it was to pry into the ultimate power of the bright sword, the proud sword technique. This proud sword technique is the power of the sword domain that you speak of, young hero. However, after I pry into the proud sword technique, I found that although this proud sword technique is peerlessly overbearing, it has lost its righteousness. It is too overbearing, but not benevolent enough. Great disaster? What great disaster? Deceiving the master and destroying the ancestors. Chapter 12:25. Elder Tian Nan nodded and said, my master was mistakenly killed by me when I was at the initial stage of the proud sword technique. After that, we fell out with each other, and after I mistakenly killed my master, I found myself in a situation controlled by the proud sword technique. This powerful proud sword technique actually affected my mind and made me a heinous person. After that, I destroyed the proud sword technique, voluntarily accepted punishment, and was banished to this eternal sword domain. As he spoke, the old man looked at the group of disciples lovingly and said, in the eternal sword domain, massacres and invasions happen all the time. These children were all taken in by me after they lost their parents. Their parents might have been evil people, but they were not at fault. I taught them martial arts and founded the Bright Sword Forest to find a place to stay in the eternal sword domain. So that's how it is. Lin Muyu was a little shocked and said, then senior, why does the proud sword technique control your mind? Elder Tian Nan smiled faintly and said, the reason why the proud sword technique is called the proud sword technique is because of the obsession in the heart. The sword is the king of all weapons, and a sword in hand is enough to look down on the world. The state of mind of the proud sword technique pursues an extreme arrogance, extreme strength, extreme madness. Once the cultivation is successful, one can look down on everything and be invincible in the world. Back then, I had already shocked my sect when I cultivated the proud sword technique to 10%. If I had cultivated the proud sword technique to 100%, I'm afraid I would have become the world's biggest disaster. Speaking of this, Elder Tian Nan glanced at Lin Muyu and said with a smile, young hero, do you still want to find the power of the sword domain and cultivate the proud sword technique? Yes. Lin Muyu's eyes were determined and said, I believe that all the power in the world can be controlled and mastered. Perhaps you were too eager to pursue power, so you stepped into the wrong direction of the proud sword technique. Since the proud sword technique is the king of swordsmanship, it must have the benevolence and generosity of a king. Senior only cultivated strength, but did not have the heart to cultivate the proud sword technique. You, Elder Tian Nan was stunned, then couldn't help but shake his head and laugh at himself. The younger generation will surpass the older. I finally understand why you became the new order of the martial god. So, are you willing to teach me the AO sword tactics? I can't teach you. Elder Tian Nan shook his head and said, when I destroyed my martial arts, the mental cultivation method of the AO sword tactics had been completely removed from my consciousness. I can't teach you anything about the AO sword tactics. Then, doesn't that mean this peerless power has been lost? Lin Muyu was slightly disappointed. Elder Tian Nan smiled, that's not necessarily true. The AO sword technique is a mental cultivation method that originally existed between heaven and earth. It's almost the same as the laws. I only had a glimpse of the tip of the iceberg of the AO sword technique. As for how to find the AO sword technique, I can give you a way. When I first came to the Eternal Sword domain, my sword was broken and my cultivation was destroyed. I once carved a small portion of the mental cultivation method of the AO sword technique on the stone wall at the back of the mountain. But after so many years of wind and rain, most of the words are no longer clear. Whether or not you can cultivate it depends on your luck. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. She cupped her fists and said, "Thank you, Senior. That means, you're willing to let me cultivate in Bright Sword Forest?" The elder smiled and said, "A dignified Mahayana Heavenly Path martial god is cultivating in my Bright Sword Forest. This is the supreme honor of our Bright Sword Forest. Why do you continue to be so polite? It's just that you're a martial god. I don't have the qualifications to teach you anything. So, you can stay in Bright Sword Forest, but you're not a disciple. You're just a guest. What do you think?" "I'll do as you say." Lin Muyu nodded and said, "I'll just follow Senior's instructions." "Good." Elder Tian Nan happily said, "Disciples, listen up. This young hero Lin Muyu will stay in Bright Sword Forest to cultivate. You need to treat him like a guest. No one is allowed to pick a fight. Otherwise, I'll punish you according to the sect rules. I won't tolerate it." "Yes, Master." All the disciples nodded in unison. At this moment, a disciple floated over and said, "Master, something bad has happened. Another 2 people have come to crash the sect gates. It's a man and a woman. Their cultivation levels are extremely high." Lin Muyu hurriedly said, "They're my people. Just let them come in. Don't make a move." Elder Tian Nan smiled slightly. Young hero, shall we continue to enjoy tea?" "Okay." After Leah and Chang Wei hurriedly entered the pear jar, they discovered that Lin Muyu was leisurely enjoying tea and discussing Dao. For a moment, their temper was gone. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu instructed the 2 of them to sit down and enjoy tea together. Elder Tian Nan personally brewed tea while looking at Chang Wei. He said, "This young hero's hostility is rather strong. It's better for you to relax and remain calm." Chang Wei wished he could smash his tea stall. However, due to Lin Muyu's presence, he respectfully said, "Yes, this junior understands." Leah blinked her eyes. "Master, do you really want to stay in this Bright Sword Forest to practice?" "Yes, I came here to find the power of the Sword Realm. Now I finally found it. That is the Proud Sword Tactics. Therefore, I must stay here until the practice of the Proud Sword Tactics is completed." Leah nodded. "Master, stay here. Leah will also stay here." Elder Tian Nan said, "Young hero, there is one more thing you must bear in mind. Practicing the Proud Sword Tactics will inevitably cause your temperament to change. You will become supercilious and arrogant. Once you really reach that point, remember to stop and no longer practice. Otherwise, you will destroy your future. You, the martial god of the Mahayana Heavenly Path, may fall into the evil path. That will be a great misfortune for the world." "I know. I will try to control it." Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. "Thank you for reminding me, Senior. After the tea, I will let the disciples take you to the guest room. After that, I will guide you to the cultivation place at the back of the mountain." "Okay." The food in Yi Jianlin was not bad. Although it was vegetarian, it was rare to eat the dishes grown in the mountains, which were fresh and elegant. After lunch, the guest room was arranged. Chang Wei stayed in the room to practice on his own. Lin Muyu took Leah to the back of the mountain with Elder Tian Nan. At this moment, a spring rain started to fall from the sky. The 3 of them did not wear any bamboo hats or anything like that, but they used their skills to block the drizzle dozens of centimeters away, so they were not wet. The drizzle filled the mountain with fresh air. After a few ups and downs, the 3 of them arrived at the top of a lonely peak. Looking from afar, there was a very flat mountain wall on the opposite side, which was engraved with faintly visible words. Elder Tian Nan did not look at these words. For him, the mental cultivation method of the proud sword tactics was a curse. Young hero, it's here. The opening chapter of the AO sword tactics is recorded on the mountain wall. Everything I wrote before I destroyed my cultivation is there. How much you can comprehend depends on you. I'll go by myself. Young hero, please help yourself. Thank you, senior. When Lin Muyu looked up, Elder Tian Nan had already floated away and quickly disappeared in the light curtain of rain. Leah's mind was simple. She sat quietly on a stone and said, Master, you practice the proud sword tactics, and Leah will practice the stellar tactics. Okay. Lin Muyu also sat quietly with her legs crossed, staring at the opposite mountain wall, but she could not distinguish the meaning of those words. She could not even see the complete words. The mountain wall had been through tens of thousands of years and had been seriously deformed. Elder Tian Nan was simply making things difficult for himself, but he had no other way. He could only help Lin Muyu to this point. Moreover, Elder Tian Nan and Lin Muyu had agreed that once Lin Muyu could not control the killing intent in the proud sword tactics after practicing the proud sword tactics, he must immediately leave the eternal sword domain. Even if he fell into the devil's path, he could not do evil in the eternal sword domain. In the evening, Leah stretched her arms and said, Master, I am hungry. Let's go down the mountain for dinner and come back tomorrow morning. Yes, Master. The two floated down and walked on the plank road. The drizzle was still falling. Master, did you understand the proud sword tactics? No. How much did you understand? I didn't understand a word. Ah. Leah opened her small mouth. Master, didn't you waste the whole afternoon? Lin Muyu smiled slightly. It's not a waste. I have been looking at those stones, and I always feel that the stones want to tell me something. As Elder Tian Nan said, the proud sword tactics is not an ordinary martial arts. It is a kind of power similar to the law. The words can be washed away by the wind and rain, but the law will not disappear because of the wind and rain. Master, do you want to continue looking at those big stones tomorrow? Yes. Master, you are so boring. Master, can Leah ask you a question? Go ahead. That old man Tian Nan also looks very powerful, and he is the master of the bright sword forest, but Leah knows that master is also very powerful. Right now, I really want to know, between master and old man Tian Nan, who is more powerful, can master defeat him? Elder Tian Nan is a senior, and I am a junior. Of course, I will not fight with him. So, master is admitting defeat? Not necessarily. Leah knows the answer. Master, you don't have to tell me. Lin Muyu, after a few minutes of peace, Leah said again, Master. What's the matter? Leah has practiced the star's skill to the second level. When will master teach me falling star steps? Falling star steps is a martial arts skill to improve body movements. Master, you don't want to teach me, do you? I will teach you if you want to learn, but you learn so fast. Aren't you afraid of being possessed by the devil? I don't think so. Leah feels that these martial arts are very orderly in her heart, and they won't conflict with each other. Master, are you worried that Leah will learn too fast and learn all of your martial arts, and then you don't need me anymore? This, Master, you don't have to worry. Even if Leah learns all of your martial arts, I will not leave you. Unless Master chases Leah away, Leah will follow you for life. Lin Muyu glanced at this beautiful young girl and could not help but smile. A lifetime is very long. I know, but Leah has already decided. Decided what? To follow Master forever. Master will protect Leah, and Leah will also protect Master. Chapter 12:26. In the quiet night of the radiant Saint Hall, the bonfires illuminated the huge pillars in the surroundings, as well as the figures within. Shi Yan sat there with a row of radiant primordial stones laid out in front of her. There were 12 of them in total. She said, Sheen brought back a total of 12 radiant primordial stones from Lasai. The number is limited, so I can only create 12 old gods. You guys decide. I'll choose the 12 strongest crippled gods to reconstruct their divine power. The people around her were all once well-known figures of the Western divine realm. There was no lack of perfect god emperors among them. Lord Blazing Angel, please tell us. We'll definitely obey. All right, I'll name them. Shi Yan looked at them quietly and said, Crown Prince Robert of the Radiant Clan, Elder Albert of the Ella Clan, Uar of the Darklight Clan, Zay of the Ganges Clan, Gina of the Radiant Clan, Helena of the Roshan Clan, Isabella of the Huji Clan. When Shi Yan finished reading the 12 names, the 12 people also stood up. Each of their faces was filled with excitement and gratitude. Shi Yan's reading of their names meant that they were about to break away from the status of a waste god. Even if they became an old god, they could at least obtain eternal life and regain the powerful abilities that they had lost. The 12 of you shall wait for me in the temple tomorrow morning. I'll use the lost paradise to refine and absorb the radiant primordial stones for you. Sleep early tonight and maintain your strength. The absorption process is quite painful. Shi Yan smiled. If you want to obtain power, you have to pay a certain price. Do you understand? Yes, thank you, Lord Blazing Angel. All right, disperse. Guard your positions and guard against any sneak attacks from Mara's army. Yes. The crowd dispersed one by one. In the blink of an eye, only Shi Yan, Eva, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Li Fei, Terlin, and a few others were left in the hall. They were the real rulers of the Western Divine Realm, the group of people who decided the ups and downs of the Western Divine Realm. Shi Yan seemed a little tired. Previously, when she followed Claude, she had always followed Claude's orders. Now that she had become the master of the Western Divine Realm, she was not used to doing everything herself. Sister Haiyan, are you all right? Qin Yin asked with concern. Shi Yan nodded and smiled. Well, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. At this moment, Shi Yan's heart suddenly moved. She stood there in a daze. What's wrong? Qin Yin was a little surprised. I feel like some kind of power is summoning me. Shi Yan quickly walked out of the hall. In the sky above the spirited mountain, beams of golden light pierced through the clouds, revealing the appearance of the Mahayana Heavenly Tao's heavenly voice scroll. In an instant, half of the spirited mountain was illuminated. Whoosh! A beam of golden light landed on Shi Yan. Then, a huge avatar descended from the sky and entered her body. Immediately, Shi Yan stretched out her arms and accepted the gift from the heavens. The heavenly voice scroll automatically formed the avatar of Goddess Nuwa. She looked extremely beautiful and dignified. She looked at Shi Yan with a peaceful expression and said, Shi Yan, as a blazing angel of the heavenly realm, you are brave and fearless. Now that you have gained the recognition of the heavenly voice scroll, you shall be bestowed with a first-class superior deity avatar. You shall be titled Moon Goddess and wield the heavenly Tao of the Moonlight Heavenly Tao. I will also bestow upon you the power of the cold moon. I hope that you will uphold the heavenly Tao and do your best for the world. Shi Yan knelt on one knee respectfully and raised her head, saying, I will do my best and not let you down. Goddess Nuwa's avatar gradually disappeared. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi walked forward together and said with a smile, Congratulations, Sister Haiyan. Shi Yan also stood up and received the congratulations from Eva, Li Fei, Terlin, and the others. All the old deities were very happy because Shi Yan's Mahayana Heavenly Tao's avatar not only meant that the Western Divine Realm's power had increased, but it also meant that the old deities could once again ascend to godhood. Shi Yan was just a good start. This was the real rise of the Western Divine Realm. How do you feel now? Eva asked. Shi Yan did not speak but just raised her palm gently. She felt an extremely strong force in her palm that she had to release. The moment the power of the cold moon gushed out of her palm, it forced Eva, Terlin, Li Fei, and the others to retreat involuntarily. The vast and awe-inspiring power was really too strong. So this is the divine power of the heavenly law of the Mahayana realm. Shi Yan pursed her red lips and said with a smile, no wonder that brat Yu is almost invincible under the heavens. He only thinks about fighting all day long, and he doesn't even think about leaving his 2 wives in the western divine realm. Qin Yin blushed. Sister Xian, what are you talking about? I asked exalted Fushi, you has only gone to the eternal sword domain. Tang Xiaoxi also said, that's right, Mu has gone to seek greater power. Shi Yan said with a smile, I've heard of the eternal sword domain. It's a very dangerous place. Aren't the 2 of you worried that you will meet with misfortune in the eternal sword domain? I am a little worried, but not very worried. Qin Yin's brows relaxed and she said with a smile, I believe in him. If even an Einherjar can't return from the eternal sword domain safely, then who else can conquer it? I'm so envious of the 2 of you, Shi Yan smiled leisurely. These words came from the bottom of her heart. The unreserved love and trust between Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi was really enviable. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were very relieved that Lin Muyu had gone to the eternal sword domain alone. They knew that Lin Muyu would definitely return. Moreover, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were in the western divine realm. Lin Muyu was also relieved. He knew that Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi would definitely be able to protect the western divine realm. If they had not met each other, they would all be powerful rulers. There was no doubt about that. Under the cold moonlight, Shi Yan stood on the tallest mountain near the radiant Saint Hall with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, protecting the western divine realm just like that. Since ancient times, gods had always been like this, protecting a region in solitude and coldness. They were very different from the Xiao Yao that the poet spoke of. Eternal sword domain, bright sword forest. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Leah had been unhappy the entire time, as it seemed like her master's cultivation had not progressed at all. This was not a good thing. If she wasted too much time in bright sword forest, Lin Muyu would face greater and greater danger. After all, news had already begun to spread in the outside world. The person who had slain a god of war insect alone had appeared in the eternal sword domain. The most taboo thing for people in the eternal sword domain was to be in the limelight. Unless it was a grandmaster like Meng Taifeng or Luo Xingji, it was very easy to become the target of public criticism. Fortunately, Snake Scale Valley was very secretive, and Bright Sword Forest was located in the depths of the mountains. Outsiders might not be able to find this place. Otherwise, trouble would have come within 3 days. In the evening, the setting sun shone on the stone wall. Lin Muyu sat there quietly, staring at the stone wall. Suddenly, she smiled. What's wrong, master? Leah looked worried. Even if you can't practice the proud sword technique, you don't have to give up. You still have Leah. We can practice other techniques. Master, are you really okay? Lin Muyu suddenly stood up and smiled. Silly girl, what are you thinking about? I have already seen through the essence of the proud sword technique. Ah. Leah was stunned. She pointed at the stone wall and said, but there's nothing there. I can't see those words. If Leah can't see them, how can Master see them? To see the words at the beginning of the proud sword technique, you can't rely on your eyes, but on your heart. Lin Muyu said quietly, for the past 3 days, I have been feeling the mental cultivation method of the proud sword technique reflected in the depths of the stone wall. When Senior Tiannan wrote this mental cultivation method, he had already reflected the mystery of the proud sword technique into the stone wall. It has not disappeared for thousands of years. What I see is not the words, but the essence of the mental cultivation method at the beginning of the proud sword technique. Do you understand? Leah shook her head. I don't understand. It's too profound. It doesn't matter. You will understand in the future. So now. Leah bit her red lips and said, what do you do now? Start practicing immediately? Practice? Practice what? Proud sword technique. No, what's the use of practicing it? Lin Muyu smiled and said, let's go. It's almost time for dinner. Go and eat with master. You are growing now, so you should eat more. As she said, Lin Muyu glanced at Leah's chest. Leah suddenly blushed. Master, do you dislike Leah's flat chest? I don't dislike it. The beautiful faces of Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi appeared in Lin Muyu's mind. Both of his wives had shockingly good figures, the kind with S-shaped bodies. Now that he had taken in a female disciple, she was indeed rather flat, the kind that did not even reach a dash. However, Lin Muyu did not mind. He was taking in a disciple, not a concubine. What was the point of asking so much? But Leah seemed to be unhappy and very upset. So Lin Muyu touched her head and said, Leah, the direction of your practice is speed, so the lighter the body, the better. It's not the key whether your chest is big or not. A flat chest can improve your speed. Let me tell you a story. Oh, go ahead, master. In my hometown, there is a race called the Amazon. The Amazon girls are naturally good at archery. In order to practice extraordinary archery skills, they will choose to cut off the left side of their chest that hinders drawing the bow. This is because too much of their chest will hinder the speed and strength of drawing the bow. Think about it, these powerful female warriors will even give up their breasts to gain strength. Your flat chest is nothing. Leah was confused. Master, do you mean that I should cut off my chest too? No, it must be very painful. Lin Muyu did not know whether to laugh or cry. That's not what I mean. I'm just saying that your flat chest might not be a bad thing. Don't take it to heart. Sai, why are we talking about this? Let's go and eat. I'm already hungry. Okay. Leah obediently held her master's hand and quickly went down the mountain. Behind them was the misty precipice behind the bright sword forest. You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.